Yesterday, a very popular YouTuber named Compilation posted an absolute bombshell of a video accusing YouTube of some awful things and explained the whole situation that led to the claims, and he does not hold back. The gloves were off and the chef's hat was on because he just started cooking their ass. Now, of course, it's not unusual for a YouTuber to make a video criticizing the platform. It happens every day because YouTube is a company that very, very rarely gets anything right. So it's constantly catching more shit than a Walmart toilet, and rightfully so. But even with hourly uploads of everything wrong with YouTube, the problems that Compilation highlights are some that I haven't ever really even seen discussed before. The video's titled YouTube Racism and Favoritism, and it was actually the #1 trending video all day yesterday, and right now it's the #2, which means this is the front page of YouTube. This is the #1 video on YouTube, so I bet they're thrilled about that. Compilation has over 14 million subscribers, so this is a video that carries a lot of weight.
You guys either play favorites, you are racist, or it's a mix of the two. These are the three options, YouTube.
It's a pretty aggressive intro, but he is rightfully upset about unfair treatment he's been experiencing. So after going through what he's gone through, he believes that there's only really 3 possible conclusions to draw from it, where it's either YouTube policy team playing favorites, members of the policy team being racist, or some combination of the two. Now, before getting into the specifics of the situation, I'd like to say I think most people have been aware of favoritism on YouTube for quite a while. You know, it's not exactly like the Krabby Patty secret formula. It's not hush hush. I think everyone has recognized that there is some level of favoritism on the platform. I mean, there's even that viral video from a few years ago where the CEO of YouTube said to Juice WRLD that they need to pump his numbers up, which indicates artificial growth. It means that they have at least some capability of boosting channels, whether that's through the algorithm and pushing it to more people, or just inflating it themselves for channels they deem worthwhile and good for business. And the inverse is likely true, where they can hide channels they think are problematic and bad for business. So favoritism is something that people have been loosely aware of for a long time. And also when it comes to, mainstream media sources, like late night show hosts have much more leeway than an average YouTuber. They can say and do a lot of things that get normal YouTubers demonetized or age restricted or straight up striked. And that doesn't apply to the big boys in the scene. So favoritism is something I think most people know exists on YouTube. That's not like a conspiracy theory. However, the claims that Corey is about to make against the YouTube policy team in regards to racism are pretty interesting.
August 18th, I uploaded The Mortuary Assistant. A lot of you would know it got age restricted. I saw that all these other YouTubers were playing The Mortuary Assistant and only my video seemed to be age restricted. So I appealed the restriction. Hey guys, I'm not sure why mine got age restricted. Could you look into this? Appeal rejected.
This isn't the whole situation, it's just the beginning. I already want to talk about something in particular though, the appeal system. Corey mentions that after appealing, he was denied, rejected pretty quickly. That's the norm. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've ever even heard about an appeal being overturned. That just never happens. The only time an appeal doesn't lead to rejection is when you make a trending hashtag about it on Twitter. You make a big hoopla on Twitter and then YouTube will go to your appeal and, make it in your favor. But if you don't do that, if you don't stir up a shitstorm and start throwing sand in YouTube's face on Twitter, they won't bother. I'm very confident that there is no human being in the review process for appeals. In fact, I would wager my anal virginity that there is no human being that looks at appeals. And if I'm wrong, then I fully invite the YouTube policy head to come raw dog me. I am so fucking confident that there is no human being that looks at those appeals because they always, almost always, end in rejection and standing with the initial decision, even when it's blatantly wrong. The algorithm makes mistakes. But the appeal is supposed to bring a human being into the equation to look at it, investigate the case, and decide whether or not it was an algorithmic error or a correct enforcement. And there are times where it was just outright incorrect, just outright wrong, and they will still stand with that decision. So I just don't think the appeal system works. That needs a drastic overhaul ASAP.
Only my video got age restricted. My YouTube rep, who isn't on the policy team, he looked at my video and he said, hey, it could possibly be this part at the end about it. So I looked at that part. The first thing I did was try to find other YouTubers who had that part, or at least a part similar. So I go to Markiplier's Mortuary Assistant Part 3, and he had the same situation going on, and his video wasn't age restricted.
Corey explains that after the appeal was rejected, he talked to his YouTube rep who speculated as to why they decided to enforce the age restriction, and he highlighted a potential problem with the ending of the game that was in his video. So Corey then went to other videos to try and find that exact same part, and he found it in one of Markiplier's videos, which wasn't age restricted, yet had the exact same content that Corey's did. So he was left confused. Why is Markiplier's video okay, but his isn't? Now I want to immediately squash the argument I know a few people will make that Cory Kenshin might not be as advertiser friendly as Markiplier, which is why Markiplier is being favored by YouTube here. That just doesn't work, because Markiplier still says bad words. He'll say fuck and shit and damn, you know, he'll squeeze in some naughty words. Cory Kenshin is squeaky clean. He doesn't say any naughty words. He even censors bad words in the games that he plays in the videos. He is the more advertiser-friendly creator. So it's not just YouTube playing favorites for whoever's more advertiser and brand friendly. It's not the case, because if it was, Cory would be the winner there. So it definitely has to be something else at play for why they demonetized Cory and not Mark. Now, if you've been around my channel for a while, you might remember I went through an almost identical situation a couple years ago. I made a video on a fake road rage incident and got an entire strike for it from YouTube, a policy guidelines strike from YouTube for it. And I found that exact same clip that I was talking about in one of Markiplier's videos that wasn't age restricted, demonetized, or anything. I was so angry. I was wiggling in rage. I was so upset I couldn't sit still in my chair, so I made this video talking about it, and then I made a big stink on Twitter. And Markiplier actually came to my rescue, like a fucking hero of justice, a symbol, like Batman. He came in and said, fair is fair, where is my strike, YouTube? And YouTube responded, not by getting rid of my strike, but by striking Markiplier's video as well. So now both of us ended up with a strike, and Markiplier made a video talking about that, and eventually YouTube decided to rescind both strikes, saying that it was an overreaction to things and it was a mistake on their part. But obviously you can see the problem here. They're not enforcing their rules equally across the platform, and they're just not enforcing them properly at all. There was no reason that video should have ever resulted in a strike by any stretch of imagination. I can understand the algorithm having a bit of a oopsie, a little boo-boo there, and mistaking a fake comical road rage for a real incident, but the appeal process is supposed to come in there where a human being looks at it and within 3 seconds should be like, oh, this is clearly a joke. But that never happened because I don't believe humans actually review the content. I'm getting sidetracked. Point is, the rules aren't enforced appropriately or equally. So kind of similar situation, but not exactly the same as what Corey's been going through with YouTube here. However, I do find it interesting that Markiplier is present in both of these cases. I feel so bad for Markiplier. He's done nothing wrong. He just keeps getting dragged into these disputes here with YouTube.
So I send a video to my YouTube rep. I say, hey, Markiplier has this situation in his video, but his isn't age restricted. Could you send that to the policy team and see what they say about that? They came back and they removed my age restriction. They took it off. After they already rejected my appeal. I expected them to triple down and give Markiplier an age restriction too. But they looked at Mark's video and they used that to verify my innocence.
After being confronted with evidence, the policy team folds and gets rid of the age restriction on Corey's video, but he decides to press forward by trying to get an explanation for why it was okay for Markiplier and not okay for him. Why isn't it the same ruling, and why is it only now, after being confronted, that they decide to get rid of the age restriction after already denying his appeal?
So I send my YouTube rep a lengthy email detailing my feelings about the entire situation. So my YouTube rep assures me he's going to continue this dialogue with the policy team. So another day, another 2 days go by, and what do you know? They re-age restricted the video. They re-age restricted the video. I say, no way did they do that. I go to Markiplier's video now, and now his video is age restricted.
Yeah, it's pure pandemonium and chaos at the YouTube policy headquarters now. They re-age restricted Corey's video and then slapped Markiplier with an age restriction as well. So they panicked, clearly. After being confronted and after Corey's email, as well as the phone call he had with the YouTube rep, they obviously caught wind of what was happening. Corey Kenshin was wondering why he was being unfairly treated by the YouTube policy team. No one else got age restrictions, it was just him. So he pressed further, pressed harder, and the policy team reacted by bringing back the age restriction to him and Markiplier. So it's like, hey, no, look, everything's good now. Now everything's even, right? We enforce this equally across the creators, so we're good here, right? No, obviously. Corey is rightfully upset. He was treated unfairly. And since YouTube is so unbelievably shit at giving clear answers to anything, Corey can only speculate as to what happened here. And he draws the potential conclusion that maybe someone or some members of the YouTube policy team are racist. Maybe they targeted Corey because of the color of his skin. And it's not a far-fetched thing to think either. In fact, Ludwig, when he interviewed Susan, and Ludwig also made a Mogul Mail talking about this exact video I'm talking about and brought up some great points, the strongest one being is there are human beings on that policy team, and there are sometimes biases with members of those teams. You know, they're human beings, and some of them are going to have biases. And there is the potential that someone there is sexist or racist. And Ludwig brings up good points about that. For example, his girlfriend's podcast gets demonetized way more than his does. And so he brings that up. Susan, the CEO, denies that it's a possibility, but it is a real possibility. And Corey is absolutely right in thinking that it could be a real possibility that someone on that policy team that has the decision-making power might be racist. Why was Corey the only one getting age restricted? And Corey also brings up another great point, which is every time Corey comes back, Corey takes hiatuses in between his content creation. Sometimes he'll be gone for like 4 or 5 months. And he'll come back and explode. He'll get #1 trending like every single day for 3 weeks straight. And then every time, like clockwork, he's hit with some kind of YouTube controversy. Last time it was getting a strike due to something from like a 4-year-old video, a 3-year-old video or something like that out of nowhere. And it's only when Corey comes back and starts getting popular again do they do something like this with age restriction or a strike or something like that. But in the breaks he takes, like the 5 months, the 9 months that he's not on YouTube, he never has problems. They don't strike anything. They don't, age restrict anything. It's only when he's back being popular that this kind of issue arises. And it's always over nothing. Like I said, Corey is probably one of the most advertiser brand-friendly content creators there is in the gaming space. He doesn't say bad words or anything bad. He even censors that kind of shit in the content of his video, like from the games he plays. So he goes the extra mile to be as brand-friendly and advertiser-friendly and family-friendly as you can be. So it can't be an issue of him just being, too hardcore for YouTube to support. That's just not the case. It has to be something else. Something maybe going wrong with the algorithm or potentially actual racism at the YouTube policy team. It's not impossible. Of course, there's no concrete evidence that there's any racists on the policy team, but since YouTube can't communicate these decisions, all you can do is guess as to the reason why things happen. Why was Corey the only one getting age restricted? We don't know. His YouTube representative doesn't fully know. The only ones that do are the policy team, and they don't communicate. So all you can do is take your best guess. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this situation, and that's about it. So yeah. I know I'm tardy to the party with this subject, and I'm sure you've already seen it by now since it happened a few days ago, but just like Game of Thrones Season 8, it just keeps getting worse. It's the Actman situation, Actman vs. YouTube. The Actman is a large YouTuber who recently posted an hour-long video, basically an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, on another YouTube channel going over all the awful things that they've done or said in their time on the internet. And as a result of posting this video, he received a strike. YouTube took it down due to nudity and sexual content because of a poorly photoshopped cucumber next to the person's mouth who the video was about. That seems like a pretty drastic over-enforcement of the rule. If they really found it to be highly sexual, it should have just resulted in limited ads as opposed to a full strike on the channel. Like, I've eaten a banana in a video before, and now I'm starting to sweat. Like, what might happen to me? It just really felt like one of those moments that was a full-blown mistake, and we've seen it a million times in the past, where the YouTube bots controlled by Skynet malfunction and issue a strike at random by accident, and then it's overturned shortly thereafter. However, the appeal was rejected within, I believe, 30 minutes of the Actman submitting it, a manual rejection, which means someone with a pulse supposedly looked at it and still said, yep, that shit's staying off the platform. We're putting the kibosh on it right now. So then it became a little bit fishier. Why? The reasoning just doesn't make any sense. It's not like he uploaded Mr. Hands or Two Girls, One Cup in his video. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of an hour-long video that had something that is slightly sexual and by all definitions pretty inoffensive. Almost no one's gonna look at that and be like, holy shit, cover your eyes. Oh my lord, he's going too hard. He's going hog wild out there. It's just not the most sexually explicit thing in the world. Even if they're going full Weenie Hut Jr. mode here, it's still pretty tame by those definitions. Like, it just didn't make any sense. I also think this highlights another shortcoming YouTube's had since the beginning of time, where if a single minuscule piece of a video is a problem, they strike the whole video. They take the whole thing down instead of just letting you yourself remove that piece, that insignificant little piece, that 2 or 3 second little problem zit. Why not just let the creator pop it? YouTube has a built-in editor where you can take things out. So why not just alert the channel like, hey, the video is fine, but there's this one part that's a problem. If you want to keep it in, it's going to get age restricted or you're going to get a strike. But you can take it out and nothing will happen. We're letting you know you have 1 week to take it out. Every single channel would elect to take it out. Like in Ackman's case, if they just told him the cucumber Photoshop thing is a problem, I'm certain he would have used the editor to just take it out of the video. Problem solved, and then there's no issue. And that saves YouTube a lot of trouble as well, because that completely avoids the ensuing shitstorm. Why not just let us use the editor to take out the problem? It's something that I also pitched to Susan, the CEO of YouTube, when I talked to her, and she thought it was a great idea, as did the policy head. That was 2 years ago. When is it coming? But anyway, in his anger, he turned to the dark side and committed the sin that every YouTuber is guilty of. He went to Twitter to start a shitstorm to finally force a real answer out of YouTube, to finally get an actual response and real action from the company. But unfortunately for Actman, he ended up with YouTube's cucumber in his mouth. They responded to this by age restricting 2 videos of his that were completely unrelated, and then just hitting the speedrun any % record for appeal rejections by slapping it down in 30 minutes. So, needless to say, the Twitter action wasn't super effective for Actman, but this was only the beginning. Because as of 2 hours ago, YouTube wasn't done huffing and puffing. They blew his whole house down. They demonetized Actman's entire channel, leaving him ineligible for future monetization. This is essentially being fired from his job, all without ever getting a single explanation as to why. It just happened. So this seems like a complete failure on YouTube's part here, and everything that resulted after the initial strike was done in pure pettiness. There's one more thing I'd like to talk about, and it's a little unrelated to the exact Actman situation, but it has to do with the way YouTubers get YouTube's attention directly. As you've noticed throughout the entire history of YouTube, every time there's a problem, people go to Twitter to talk about it, and vent about it, and tag YouTube in it. And the reason for that is because for most channels, that's the only means of getting a response from the company. Do you know how fucking pathetic that is? To have people like Actman, who are essentially employees, having to go on Twitter and publicly whine about their boss? That's so demoralizing. Having to grovel at their feet, cry and beg for just a little scrap of information as to what's going on and if they can lend a little hand to fix a problem. That is just the worst system of all time. But that's the only way most YouTubers have any access to the company. And it seems to be the only efficient way of getting things solved. And I'm guilty of doing it too. I've gone on Twitter to take a fat dump Baruski on YouTube for something they fucked up on. Because I try every other alternative going through all of the proper YouTube channels, but it never leads to solutions. The only thing that does is by making a big hubbub on Twitter about it. It's just so pathetic. No YouTuber or anyone wants to be publicly whining on Twitter about a problem. They want it to be fixed behind the scenes, and YouTube shouldn't want it to be a big problem on Twitter either. The Actman shit has been trending for like 12 hours now. It's like the #1 trend in the world. And it's bad for YouTube, but he's tried everything else. He's been talking to his partner manager, whom I'm just going to say seems like has no power in this situation, which is about par for the course because a lot of times partner managers have absolutely no ability to solve problems. They're fundamentally just hall monitors for the principal, but don't actually have any level of power, unfortunately, though I do believe they should, because every partner manager I've ever known at YouTube is a great person, really on the side of creators, but their hands are tied with what they're given from the company and how to handle problems. So the only thing YouTubers can do is once they exhaust their partner manager, if they even have one, and once they exhaust all the official channels, all they can do, the only thing left, is to make a big deal about it on Twitter. And it sucks. It sucks for YouTube because they look like shit, per usual, and it sucks for the creator because no one wants to just be publicly, making a big scene about shit that should be private. It's just so frustrating that it's been like this for years with no signs of changing. They need to improve the communication. When I had a conversation with Susan, this was one of the things I brought up, and I was told that they're working on making that better. That's been 2 years now, and it's still the same. And unfortunately, in Ackman's case, it backfired on him because YouTube got upset about it and started really blasting his whole channel over the issue. Even though they only had a problem with one video, for some reason they extended it to his entire channel, which seems to be purely done out of spite. Regardless of how you feel about Ackman or Ackman's video that started all of this, I believe everyone can agree that the strike is utter bullshit. There is no grounds for nudity and sexual content strike here. And there's even less reasonable explanation for why 2 completely unrelated videos got age restricted shortly after this problem was brought to Twitter. And there's absolutely zero reason for why his whole channel was then demonetized afterward. All of this completely unrelated from that first video. It seems like a complete fuck up from YouTube and an utter failure to enforce their policies properly. And I'm pretty confident they will overturn this. I really do think they will. I think at some point it'll go up the right chain and the right people and they'll realize that all of this was a big mistake and they'll overturn it. But they need to not only accept responsibility, but improve the system that keeps failing the platform. There's no reason, again, why YouTubers have only one course of action, which is to go to Twitter. Partner managers need more power to fix things. There's just no downsides to giving partner managers more power. Legitimately, only good things can come from that. It's not like it's going to birth Dr. Doom. There's not going to be some rogue YouTube employee partner manager who just becomes a supervillain and, uploads Goatsy on everyone's channel or some shit. If a partner manager has more power and can actually solve problems like Ackman's here, which would only take a couple of seconds to recognize that this is an over-enforcement of their policy and a mistake, then that whole problem gets shut down immediately, and it never makes it as far as this one has in the public eye, where now it's a huge thing on Twitter and YouTube and Twitch. A lot of people talking about it on Twitch too because it's such a big, wide-ranging issue. None of that happens if a partner manager can just solve it themselves. But unfortunately, we don't live in that utopia. We're fucking condemned to this dystopian Narnia where YouTube has this archaic, awful system in place that nothing ever gets solved unless there's an absolutely massive public backlash against the company. So now everyone sees how stupid YouTube looks and how mismanaged and dysfunctional these systems are, and it's a bad look for the platform. It's bad for creators, and it's bad for the platform that there is no actual way of solving problems privately. It has to be done publicly in the public eye on Twitter in order for things to get solved on YouTube. That's so silly. Give YouTube partner managers more power to fix problems, and you solve a lot of reputational damage to YouTube. They can avoid so much conflict in the future if they just give those partner managers the ability to fix things. Everything that's happened to the Ackman this week is absolutely terrible. It's awful, but I am confident it's going to get overturned and fixed. But it's still extremely embarrassing for the platform as a whole that the only way these things get fixed is when there's a big enough public backlash for it. There just needs to be a better system in place, or this is going to keep happening forever, as it has been for the last decade. Just fucking fix the problem. Partner managers really do everything they can to help their partners on the platform, but they just don't have many tools of helping. Give them those tools, and you will stop issues like this. That's about it. That's about it. See ya. I'm actually fucking fuming right now. You probably can't tell because trying to read my emotions is like trying to read hieroglyphics, but take my word for it. I'm more upset than Dan Bilzerian finding out about taxes. I'm genuinely fucking livid. Let me explain why I'm so mad. Yesterday, I covered the very disturbing topic of the animal abuse community on YouTube, all kind of fostered because of YouTube's reluctance to ban an account called Pollution Entertainment that was notorious for murdering his cats on camera and making videos torturing them posted onto YouTube. I'd like to add he never got a strike for any of those videos. Those videos were never even removed by YouTube. He deleted them himself. And even though authorities were involved and mainstream media picked it up and the entire platform rallied against Pollution, begging YouTube to take action, to this day, 2 years later, his account is still up. And yesterday I talked about that and the consequence of leaving that account up. And it's that he's inspired an entire community of animal abusers to murder their cats on YouTube and post videos of it. It spawned an entire trend. And it's disturbing, it's sad, it's despicable, it's fucking sickening, and YouTube should lose sleep over it, but they won't because they're still just going to have wet dreams about this algorithm that somehow they believe keeps them safe and is benevolent, doing a great job, even though it is beyond flawed and rarely ever gets anything right. As a little update to the video I made yesterday, one of the accounts I showed, Angela Alvarez, has been terminated, so that's some good news, at least one of them's down. It's absolutely fucking deplorable, and I'm only scratching the surface. There's another massive trend with channels that have hundreds of thousands of subs where they pretend they're rescuing animals from like truck tires. There's one big one in particular. A channel will put puppies and dogs under truck tires, run over the dogs a little bit while the dog's screaming. They'll turn on the camera, run over and rescue it for the sake of their YouTube views. It's fucking disgusting stuff, and it's pretty clear that they put the animals in these positions to rescue them. They'll throw them in snakes and be like, holy shit, get these snakes off, we're trying to save a dog, look how great this is, thumbs up, don't forget. These channels don't even do a good job of making it seem like they're actually rescuing animals. They'll have a video like, holy shit, this German Shepherd puppy tried to hang itself in my basement. They'll have the fucking dog in a noose and be like, holy shit, get down from there, what are you thinking, suicide's not the answer. And then take the dog down, the dog's really in fucking rough shape because of this, and then they'll try and make it be some kind of happy, uplifting video, even though it's clear that these people are evil. YouTube has basically become live leak for animals. There's just so much terrible shit in regards to hurting animals on the platform, and I just don't understand why YouTube keeps turning a blind eye to it, it feels like, because they still haven't even addressed the pollution thing. I really just don't get YouTube's priorities. They are so quick to ban a channel like Leafy is here because he made too many Pokemon videos, but they will take their sweet fucking time in actually addressing real crimes like child abuse. And you remember Daddy05, the family that was abusing their children for views and subscribers on YouTube for a long time? Authorities had to fucking like beg YouTube to do something about it before they actually finally acted on it. They just seem to be so reluctant to actually address real crimes and problems like animal abuse and child abuse. It really feels like they just don't give a fuck. At least not about things that matter. So a few days ago, almost a week ago now, one of my videos was taken down called Road Rager Learns a Hard Lesson. It's a fake staged video in a Russian dash cam where a man gets out of his car, bangs on a van's window, and then SpongeBob, Mickey Mouse, the squirrel from Ice Age, and some purple ass-beating elephant cartoon character all get out of the van, it's mascots, and then they get into a little fight and then run away, and that's the end of the video. I was just making jokes about it, and YouTube removed it for violent and graphic content in what is clearly a staged, viral YouTube video that 5 years ago was huge. There are still dozens, if not hundreds of uploads of the exact same video still on YouTube with no issue, and people talking about it with no issue. For some reason, they have decided to target mine. And okay, it's happened in the past, I understand mistakes happen, so I appealed it. Well, within 2 days, it was rejected. Okay, so I take it up the ladder. As I've mentioned before with my company, Human Media Group, we actually work very closely with YouTube and have had nothing but a positive relationship with them. The partnership division is great. My YouTube partner contact has been absolutely wonderful. The sports and entertainment department at YouTube we work very closely with at Human Media Group has been fucking great. But when I took this to them, this is out of their hands. This is not any of their departments. This goes to some fucking rogue syndicate Illuminati shadow Splinter Cell division that I guess they just lock in cells or trap in dark cages for decades until they lose touch with humanity and they treat them like zoo animals, because this department is so disconnected from the most basic understanding of human concepts. They believed my road rage video was genuine, shocking, disgusting, and overwhelmingly disturbing to the point that it needed to be removed from the platform. Which is fucking weird that they felt that way about a staged road rage video, but don't feel that for videos where their animals are being brutally murdered by baseball bats and blood and guts are flying all over the fucking place, even in the thumbnail. It's weird that they feel that for a fake road rage incident where SpongeBob is throwing a few slaps to a man. It's unbelievable to me. Now, again, I mentioned the great departments we work with at YouTube. In fact, I'd argue the majority of YouTube genuinely does care from behind the scenes. I think a lot of the departments are really on the side of creators and want to make it better. But there is a few groups like this one in particular that just completely ruin it and ruin YouTube's reputation and image as a result of it. Now, all of these departments are really isolated from one another, so everyone I've talked to at YouTube doesn't have like a direct means of communication with this manual review team. They only talk through emails or like pigeon carriers. I really don't even know. They don't have a way of actually having a one-on-one communication conversation or anything except through email. Which right away represents a problem. When everyone's not on the same page or the same team with the same understanding of what is and isn't allowed, that's already a problem. If they're not easily accessible and you can only talk to them through email, that's not good. Everyone I talked to didn't agree with this decision that they've made here. And I'm not even convinced that this manual review team has actual human beings on it. Maybe I've watched too many conspiracy theories, so I got a big old tinfoil condom now, but I really feel like it's some kind of AI, just another algorithm or some kind of fucking neural network looking at these things and making these decisions. Me even go one step further, maybe they're deep faking Keanu Reeves' face on the body of a mannequin at the office to trick people into thinking there's a human being working in this department. I really don't know, because it would take an actual human being only one watch of my video to recognize that the video is fake and it's not intended to be shocking or disgusting. It's just meant for jokes. In the video, none of the punches even connect. All the punches are pulled, all the kicks are pulled. This is actually what it looks like in drama club when you're simulating a fight. The video is a staged stunt, and it takes a human being only one watch of the video to recognize that, even if you don't look into it, which you can, and find that it's fake. It's unbelievable to me that they would not only maintain this decision, but say that this is such an extreme case of shocking and disgusting content that it needed to be removed, and I needed to be punished with a strike on my channel for it. The way they make it sound makes it feel like I'd have a better chance of getting in contact with this team if I wrote my problem on a fucking rock and threw it as hard as I could out my window. Maybe then they'd actually see the problem. Every department I've talked to has no direct means of communication with them, and I'm talking heads of these departments have no way of getting in fucking contact with this fucking group here. You know how alarming that is? They actually shared with me the message they sent in regards to the road rage video they took down. It's 2 lines. It is one line that says, "We are maintaining our decision to keep the video down," and the second line is a copy and paste of the rules regarding shocking content that's taken right off the Google help page. That's it. There's no conversation. There's no proof that a human being even wrote that email. It is literally looking like an automated reply. That is what they sent to a fucking head of one of these departments who tried to get in contact and fix this issue. That is a problem. In an act of desperation, I did what any sad Boy Scout would do. I tweeted at YouTube. I gave it a whirl to see what that would do. And they responded saying they look into it and thanks for my patience. And you know what? I don't expect the answer to change. In fact, I'm so confident it won't that I've already made this before they give me their final answer. And I imagine by the time I upload this, they will have already said on Twitter publicly that the video violates their policy and that I should review their terms of service or something similar to that effect. I've never done this shit before, but I really think YouTube needs to answer for what is going on with this manual review team. There is so much bullshit and so much that doesn't make sense. Why won't they ban animal abuse like Pollution Entertainment's channel? Why are they allowing that to persist and allow these videos of animal abuse to get hundreds of thousands of subscribers and views across their platform? What is wrong with their manual review department where they view a clearly staged road rage incident as some kind of shocking, disturbing video, despite the fact that there's hundreds of other videos of the exact same incident that don't have a problem? There are so many things that I think YouTube needs to change. So for the first time in my life, I actually do think a hashtag does need to be trending. Maybe they'll listen to that. I don't know if they ever have in the past because I don't really pay attention to Twitter hashtags, but I was hoping if something like hashtag answer us YouTube could get trending, maybe then they'd pay attention, because it seems like the only way to ever even get contact with YouTube for most people is through Twitter by adding them at Team YouTube. So maybe they do pay attention to Twitter, and I would love if they would at least listen. I think I can speak for most people when I say we want some fucking answers from YouTube. Why won't they ban an account like Pollution Entertainment that would adopt cats just to murder them on his YouTube channel? Why is that still up? Why don't they have a problem with animal abuse, but they'll ban other channels for much more innocent content at the drop of a hat? What is going on with the manual review team? Why is every department so isolated from each other where it seems like nobody at YouTube is on the same fucking page? We want some goddamn answers, so I would love to see if hashtag AnswerUsYouTube could do anything. I doubt it. YouTube has become an absolute virtuoso when it comes to ignoring everyone. So I guarantee even if every fucking world leader came together to ask YouTube a question, they'd put their fingers in their fucking ears and just pretend they didn't hear it. But maybe hashtag AnswerUsYouTube could do something good, maybe. But overall, I just wanted to rant. I wanted to vent because this shit is just so frustrating. That's it. See ya. Stop everything you're doing right now. I don't care how important it is. I have news that'll blow it out of the water. And trust me, you're going to want to get this sitting down. So if you're in the operating room watching this, it's time to put down the scalpel and pay attention. YouTube has just made a massive change to the platform, and in standard YouTube fashion has done a horrible job at communicating it to the community. So it's up to me, Ace Reporter Charles here, to tackle this topic from the front lines, just riding through like Paul Revere lighting the lanterns, letting you all know that another awful set of changes are coming to YouTube that have already overnight tanked some creators' source of income from their channels, demonetized like half of their videos with no explanation, and more channels are soon to follow as this continues to roll out. And I'll let it be known right away here that yes, my channel has been hit extremely hard by this new shadow policy that they've slid into the equation here. The policy is, if you say any swear word or anything less than proper in the first 8 seconds of a video, you instantly get demonetized for it no matter what. There is no wiggle room. If you say anything that's not squeaky clean Weenie Hut Jr. and you let that rip in the first 8 to 15 seconds of that video, well, you're just getting blasted, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, to a lot of you, hearing that's probably not surprising because the previous policy that all YouTubers were playing ball with was the first 30 seconds you couldn't say fuck. You couldn't say anything super hard like fuck. Because if you did, you'd likely get demonetized. But now, it applies to the first 8 seconds and all profanity is being treated equally, except for a couple of exceptions like hell and damn, I guess. Maybe even ass. You might be able to squeeze a little ass in there in the beginning, I suppose, if the YouTube Illuminati is feeling generous with their policy enforcement that day. Now, while that's all pretty clear about just not using any profanity whatsoever in the first 8 seconds, it gets a little muddy when it starts talking about a focal usage of profanity throughout the video. It says such as a mention in every sentence, but that's not exactly how they enforce it. For a lot of the videos that have been demonetized, at least on my side, it's not like I'm going around hitting them with like Saints Row dialogue. It's just very confusing what's actually triggering this new demonetization wave that's sweeping through like a plague. For example, RT Game, again, isn't exactly a creator known for like intense swearing and getting out of control and unhinged and saying profanity in every sentence like this policy here. And yet, so many of his videos just got demonetized. And he's also not someone that does a whole lot of cursing and swearing like a sailor in the first like minute of his videos either. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's not as clear as these rules seem to think that it is. Also, this rule applies retroactively to every piece of content ever made, even as far back as like 2007. So like half of my catalog of videos is now demonetized. This happened to a ton of creators, and because it's a new policy, yet every old video ever made now has to play by those rules. So it ended up with so much being demonetized. But it's very vague when it comes to the enforcement here. Let me give you just 2 quick examples from 2 new videos I made. Both of these were monetized as of 12 hours ago. So this first one is just called Good News. It is legitimately just going over very wholesome topics. The focal point is not on swearing, it's not a potty mouth kind of video. It's just going over wholesome topics. But in the intro, I said shit pretty early. This week's been pretty doom and gloom with a lot of awful shit coming to light all across the internet. So me saying shit here is clearly what triggered the demonetization flag. Okay, a little upsetting, but they've now made these rules clear and they're retroactive, so I get it. But here's an example of one that makes no sense at all by their new rules. This is me talking about Godslap Issue 2 being out. Don't worry, I'm here now. I know for the last few months you've been cold and afraid, the uncertainty eating away at you, wondering what comes next. Well, I'm here to show you what comes next. It's issue 2 of Godslap, baby. I probably don't need to explain what Godslap is, you already know. It's our comic book series that's become more popular than the Bible. There's no profanity at all, not even low-level profanity. I don't mention ass or butt or anything like that at all. I'm just talking about Godslap and getting excited. It's a comic book series we've worked on for a long time, and I made this video just going over everything and letting you all know that it's available at godslapbook.com. This wasn't supposed to be an ad for it, but it's a great example here because there is no profanity used throughout this video until 5 minutes and 37 seconds into it after giving a plot summary for issue 1. Surrounding Sal, finishing them off with more finger flicks which blow their fucking head off. They share a brief conversation. So then what could have possibly triggered this demonetization? Is it using profanity at all that's going to result in demonetization? Because that'd be very concerning if so. The best guess I can muster is they must have been really upset about the animation because we had an animation made for issue 2 and it's a pretty gory animation. So it comes in at around a minute into the video and there is some animated gore and violence, but that's a minute into it. And again, that's not the focus of it, and I wouldn't think anyone would be like disturbed or shocked by the content. It's not anything that's, you know, egregious or over the top. It's just violence in a comic book and animated format. So would that really now result in demonetization for any channel that has anything that's even close to this level of violence? Because that's really strict. Like, what you see there is something you'd find in like any M-rated or even T-rated game sometimes. Like, it's not that extreme. Like, I don't see why that would warrant being demonetized, but it is a bit scary because this has all happened overnight with no explanation. And it's not just, you know, bad words and things like that. This applies to so much other shit that they're now enforcing heavily. But it's not just for getting a little wacky with your language in videos that'll result in demonetization now. If you're getting a little wacky with your game choice, if you're a gaming YouTuber, you can get demonetized for it, even age restricted in some cases. If you're playing a game that's kind of violent, you're very likely to get demonetized for it. And if there's bad language in that game, especially early on in the video you make covering that game, you're likely to be demonetized for it. And in fact, Callisto Protocol is the most recent example. You can get age restricted for it too. Callisto Protocol was deemed too gory, it's too much, this is very unholy stuff we're seeing here. So anyone that made videos on Callisto Protocol got age restricted for it, including me. A couple of them I know slid under the radar, but for the most part, anything that had Callisto Protocol did get age restricted, which is almost poetic because you might remember that Callisto Protocol is inspired by Dead Space, and Dead Space 2 had the worst marketing campaign of all time called Your Mom Hates Dead Space, and it was all about how offended mothers were getting at Dead Space. It was very silly, but now it's like become reality for YouTube. YouTube is now that Dead Space mom when it comes to violent video games. It's pretty pathetic, but what's the saddest part about this whole situation is YouTube's refusal to be transparent with this and make it clear that these policy changes are coming. I had to find out, as did everyone else, after being hit by it and then doing digging, because anytime there's a policy change, YouTube treats it like a government secret, like the Krabby Patty secret formula. They just refuse to share it. So I had to learn by searching around online, talking to other creators, as well as talking directly to YouTube in order to get answers for what was going on. And even my YouTube contact wasn't aware of this until I brought it up and he did digging on his end. And that is absolutely not any fault of his own. That just goes to show you how split YouTube is internally, where things just aren't communicated effectively even on the inside. So how the fuck can they possibly manage to inform the community, I guess? It is so laughable. This policy is a game changer for a lot of channels. You have to completely alter your content strategy depending on like what you do. Like if you play like a certain game that could now be deemed a little too violent for ads. Like this is something that changes a lot for many creators. And you have to find out by going through fucking Twitter and then talking to people in whispers on Discord in order to figure out what was happening. That is so pathetic. That YouTube's repeated inability to communicate even their biggest changes to the platform just makes no sense. It just can't be that hard to put out clear documents letting people know what's around the corner and an estimated arrival date. I don't see what makes that so difficult and why they struggle so greatly with it. There was one article I found about this in early December, but of course there was no like set time frame for when this would actually launch or if it was even really going to launch for sure. Because all of those things are written so vaguely, you never really know what's going to come to the platform and what's not going to. Like, it's just so frustrating to have them constantly make these awful choices without ever consulting creators or users of the platform, obviously, but also just not telling them either. Unfortunately, it's all just another common YouTube L here. I had to unmask the Scooby-Doo villain, and per usual, it was YouTube. So if you're just now figuring this out and wondering why your channel got demonetized over the last 24 hours, I'm sorry I had to be the one to shit out this bad news onto your plate. Would have been a lot more palatable if it came from YouTube's mouth as opposed to my ass, but is what it is. I am very, very convinced they will never actually communicate policy changes ever, at least not in any effective manner. So you'll just always have to wonder when the next big policy change is coming to fuck you in the mouth. So that's a pretty fun thing to think about when making content on YouTube. And yeah, just wanted to give everyone the little update here since YouTube didn't. That's about it. See ya. There's a renaissance happening on YouTube right now, and you can either get with the times or get out of here. Scram. The future's coming and you can't stop it, old man. And that future has a name, and its name is breastfeeding. YouTube is no stranger to people trying to weasel their way around the rules to find loopholes that allow them to post porn on the platform. And the most recent and very successful strategy here has been breastfeeding videos in order to promote an OnlyFans. So, there is a channel, was a channel, RIP, this is kind of a funeral service for the channel as well, called Sierra Education. She had over 150,000 subscribers, and she was kind of going viral on Twitter when people became aware of this with all the views and subs she was getting, where she was making breastfeeding videos where she just had full-blown honkers out there. She had titties not censored at all, and she used a little fake baby to give breastfeeding tutorials that would link to her OnlyFans. Now, as of right now, as of making this video, her account has been banned. I can't access it anymore. However, I did get to access it a few nights ago on stream in order to do my own investigative research here, so I'm going to go ahead and show you that. Yeah, Sierra Education, new breastfeeding tutorial, 4K breastfeed tips. What's weird is, well, I mean, I think you know it's weird, but what's interesting is this isn't new. In fact, there was a time when YouTube, a long time ago, I made a video on this lady, she circumvented YouTube's like pornography stuff by filming breastfeeding videos with her actual child. And she ended up going to jail, still in jail, I'm pretty sure. She's using fake boobs, I'm pretty sure. Oh, not her. You're talking about Sierra? Hold on. I'll check on another screen here. I'll tell you if they're fake boobies or not. It doesn't look like she's using a real baby, so that's good. It seems to be a doll. And those definitely aren't fake honkers. Case closed. Myth busted. Now, I meant stunt titties, like a pair of, you know, complete make-believe hocus-pocus titties. There's no telling whether or not hers are big naturals or if they've had augmentations done to them, you know, like some Deus Ex titties or whatever. But I was saying she's using her actual breasts on her chest, not using, like, some kind of movie prop boobies. We actually had a lot of fake titties around the warehouse back when I had my Library of Alexandria sex toy collection, so I've seen my fair share of those, and I can confirm beyond a shadow of a doubt that's not what she was broadcasting on YouTube. Now, I can also confirm that she wasn't using a real baby, at least not in the video that I had up, so she probably won't be facing legal repercussions like the woman who came before her. Her name was Lee Felton. Lee Felton used to post breastfeeding videos onto YouTube, uncensored, just like this, and she used an actual child for it, an actual baby for it. And eventually, when authorities were alerted to this, they kind of ruled that that's extremely bad because it's basically bringing a child into porn. Like, she would do things like oiling up and all of that. It was fucking disgusting stuff. Unforgivable. So she is still in jail for that. Now, Sierra Education here, that's the name of the breastfeeding pioneer that everyone's been talking about recently. It was just her and a doll. So she probably won't get any kind of, like, legal trouble for it, but it's still so fucking degenerate and gross to be using breastfeeding as a means to promote your OnlyFans and, like, whatever other porn or whatever. That's so fucking abhorrent. What she did was clearly a violation of the YouTube rules, which is why she's banned. YouTube has always had rules where if it's educational or artistic, you can post content with nudity in it. This is something we talked about like a year ago with the guy who nared his butthole under the education clause, teaching people how to properly de-hair their brown balloon knot. And I believe that same channel has also done the same for like shaving your pubes and stuff. So this whole branch of content is nothing new, but the big difference here with Sierra Education and her breastfeeding versus, you know, the butthole hair vaporizing wizard is that that channel with the butt nair, like the eviscerate all the hair on your chocolate starfish, that never linked to like porn or OnlyFans or anything, whereas Sierra Education was directly linking to an OnlyFans. So I believe the reason she got banned isn't even because of the breastfeeding itself, because naked yoga is another old popular trend on YouTube where people would post completely naked yoga videos under the education and art clause and never really got super punished for it. I don't know if that's still around. Actually, I'm going to check real quick. I'll be right back. So if I come back looking all sweaty, you know that it's still around. It doesn't appear to still be around. But what is another huge trend right now with the transparent try-on hauls, where women have noticed that you can once again put nudity on YouTube through an educational context if you do like clothes reviews, so try-on hauls. And what they're doing is they're getting transparent clothing and just being naked underneath it. So, and some of them do like in the shower too, like how absorbent is this material? So they'll wear like a white shirt and then go into a shower and, you know, get it all wet so you can still just see full milkers and everything. So like there's always these different little tricks and cheats and all that in order to get pornographic content onto YouTube. And right now, the breastfeeding one from Sierra Education was probably the most successful and biggest example of that. But also, now that I mention it, I think transparent try-on hauls are probably just as big, if not bigger, because they continue to just grow. More and more people are doing that, and it's the same thing. It's basically just doing it to have nudity on the platform to try and make money that way. And every time I talk about this kind of stuff on stream, people always inevitably ask, why? Why the fuck would someone want to put this kind of content on YouTube? Just keep it on OnlyFans or keep it on, you know, whatever other sites you're using for that kind of content. And the answer is pretty simple. It's because YouTube is the biggest possible platform to get eyes on it. So if you're someone like Sierra Education, you can break out on YouTube through this breastfeeding guise, this ruse, and link people to your OnlyFans that would have never seen it before. It put so much attention on her, and she was constantly translating those peepers to her OnlyFans to try and monetize them and immediately try and capitalize off of that. It's just a bigger stage for it to promote to something else. It's the same reason why someone wants to do it on Twitch, because there's more people going on to Twitch than there are going on to Chatterbait or something. So if you can stand out on Twitch as someone that's doing some kind of sexual content and link to your like full-blown sexual content, you stand to get more eyes on it because the platform's bigger. That's just always been the way of things. You want to try and stand out on a bigger platform to increase your odds of being seen. Now I'll briefly go back to Sierra Peach for a second because she is nothing if not tenacious. Her main account with over 150k subs did get banned, but she is already back on the grind posting on other YouTube accounts with the same content, and she's doing it on Instagram now as well. Instagram has recently become completely infested with porn now. I've been seeing a lot of discussion around this where if you go through like any pages really, you'll inevitably end up on something pornographic just fucking jump scaring you. Like going through Reels, apparently a lot of people are getting it. And it's people like Sierra Peach that are starting to recognize like, oh, even getting banned, it doesn't matter as long as a few new people see it. They might come and spend a few dollars on my OnlyFans or, you know, pay for a couple months on OnlyFans. So people are starting to catch on to that. So they're flooding places like YouTube and Instagram with it. It's not surprising by any means. As I mentioned, this is nothing new. But it's always so degenerate to do some shit like this. To promote porn through breastfeeding videos is just so weird. That is so fucking weird. Even though she's using a doll, it still doesn't take away from just how bizarre and gross that whole idea is to promote porn through breastfeeding tips. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, anyway, I wanted to talk about it a little bit. That's it. So yeah. YouTube's always been a mysterious place. It's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. No one truly knows what's going on at the YouTube HQ. It's like Area 51, but for video sharing platforms. And the only thing you can ever be certain of with YouTube is that if a YouTuber makes a video talking about them, it's typically negative. However, today, that's not the case. I'm happy to report with a smile on my face and a wet spot in my trousers that I have nothing but good things to say about YouTube today. And I swear on a stack of Pokemon cards, I am not being forced to say this. There isn't like a YouTube assassin with a gun to my head threatening me. As God and anime as my witness, this is just truthfully how I feel today. I'm going to go ahead and catch you up on the lore here and bring you all up to speed. A few days ago on Twitter, I made this post complaining about how one of my videos from 3 years ago was taken down and I got another strike on my channel. The video is, of course, the timeless classic Viking Daughter Gertholomew. Now, I'm sure Viking Daughter is a game that needs no introduction. It's one of the world's most popular games, up there with the Super Mario Brothers, but for porn. It's a game where you get to have sex with the Viking chief's daughter, and it's where I created my alternate character, my persona, Gertholomew. Now, when I created Gertholomew, I really found myself. I wouldn't be the Charles White sitting before you today without Gertholomew. Gertholomew crawled so that Charles White could run. God rest his soul. Some say they don't even know where Gertholomew ends and Charles begins anymore. The point is, though, the game was a porn game where you have sex with this girl. It was all censored, and I censored it further, but it was still in violation of YouTube's policies, so they gave me a strike. Understandably, I was very upset about this, so I did what every creator does. I went to Twitter because it seems like that is currently the only way that you can actually get answers from YouTube. And answers I did receive, we came to a compromise where the video will stay removed, but the strike will be overturned. So the strike is gone, but the video is too. Gertholomew took one for the team, made the ultimate sacrifice, getting rid of the strike. Of course, I'm still upset about it because I hate to see my baby boy slaughtered like that. I would like if the Viking Daughter could continue to exist on YouTube, because I still don't think it really violates the policy since everything is censored, but that's just my opinion. I was happy the strike was gone. And to my surprise, Santa Claus came a little early. Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, replied to my tweet saying that she'd like to set up time to talk about what happened and receive feedback on everything that went on. Of course, I expected nothing out of tagging Susan in my initial tweet. It's like when somebody's having a problem with their Amazon order of a box of condoms and they tag Jeff Bezos asking him to hand deliver the condoms to them. Obviously, you're not expecting anything, but Susan actually responded, and to my even greater surprise, followed through. It wasn't just a public response without any follow-through. We had a real phone call today to go over everything, and it was no holds barred. She welcomed any and all hard questions that I could come up with. I even brought Matt in as like some backup muscle to come up with even harder questions for her to answer. Matt, if you don't remember, is the man who's immune to hot sauces and hot peppers. Man could literally Kegel 5 Carolina Reapers in his asshole and feel nothing. The man's a fucking monster with spice. I'm sure you know Matt by now. And he came along with me so we could both ask her some questions that every creator's had for years now and get some insight on. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to record our conversation because it was more than just Susan and I on the line. There were a few other department heads that wanted to hop in the video call as well to talk about things and get feedback on things, including a man that many people believe to be a myth these days, like Merlin the Wizard. I'm talking about the head of the YouTube policy team. I have never had a conversation with anyone on the policy team. Everyone I've ever talked to on the YouTube platform has never had contact with the policy team. And today I was lucky enough to actually talk to the head of the entire department. And I am happy to say he's a human being. At least as far as I could tell. He didn't have any like Android malfunctions or glitches going on where he just starts spewing out like binary code or anything. Like, he seemed like a normal, nice guy, actually. And I just wanted to talk about the conversation we had today because I feel like a lot of creators would want to get some insight as to what's going on and how they plan on tackling a lot of the problems we've been having recently. So naturally, the first thing I wanted to talk about is why the strikes are used so frequently. It's strike first, ask questions later. They come out gung-ho, guns blaring, riding horseback, just tossing out strikes on the platform, it feels like, even for minor offenses. And the policy head assured me that it really is an overcorrection of the rules, a mistake where they come in very heavy-handed and strike channels that aren't blatantly abusing the rules. He explained to me that the strikes are really meant there for the bad actors that constantly show a blatant disregard of the rules, where they'll have multiple infractions before giving a strike, but sometimes it falls through the cracks just given the size of the team and the volume they deal with, where they'll just give a strike out of nowhere to a channel that just didn't deserve it based on the minor offense. So, yeah, okay, understandable, mistakes happen, but what are they going to do going forward to prevent this mistake from happening so frequently? And he went into detail about some of the things that they're going to be looking to do in 2021, and I wanted to give a suggestion of my own to toss into the ring there that actually came from Markiplier. A month ago, Markiplier and I both received strikes on our channels for the same video we were making jokes about. It was a video where SpongeBob and a few other mascots get together and the bad boys staged a road rage where they pretend to beat up a man on the streets while wearing their mascot costumes. It's a goofy video. We were making jokes about it, and we both received strikes on our channel for it. And Markiplier, in his video talking about it, brings up an extremely great suggestion going forward that I think YouTube really needed to hear, and I was glad to bring it to them. The suggestion is, let creators use YouTube's own editing tools to blur or take out infringing content. So that way, instead of having the whole video removed and a strike on the channel, let the creator know, hey, look, this right here violates a policy, you might want to do something about it, and let the creator use the tools that YouTube currently has to remove it, because we have the technology. The technology is there. We're in the fucking future. We can do that. And I'm sure most creators are willing to take out 10 seconds of a video if it means they don't get a strike and the video stays up. This also comes into play with Mama Max's video, if you remember that controversy that happened where Mama Max had this huge video that got taken down, and it was taken down, if I remember correctly, because he showed a phone number for like 3 seconds on screen. Well, instead of taking that whole video down, why not just let Mama Max know, take this out and the video stays up? I'm sure he would have obliged using YouTube's editing tools. So I wanted to make sure that they heard that suggestion, and Susan in particular really liked the idea and really wanted to press that on the policy team, and the policy head also liked the idea and wanted to explore ways of slowly implementing this policy over time too. So it just really felt like everyone there was actually receptive to feedback. Susan was pressing questions to the policy team guy about, well, why aren't we doing this? Can we do this? Using our feedback on the call, and that really meant a lot because it showed me that at least it feels like they care and do want to make the platform better. Now, whether or not a system like this will ever be in place, who knows? That remains to be seen. But at least seeing that their excitement and willingness to accept feedback and even start talking about ways that they could implement it over the call was nice to hear. Now, I also wanted to pose a couple more questions to the policy head because it's not every day you get to talk to a unicorn, right? I mean, like, no one's ever talked to the policy head team, and the guy was super nice and super open with just about everything going on there. So, of course, I wanted to know, why doesn't the policy team talk to anyone on the platform? They are easily the most powerful department in the company, but also the one shrouded in the most mystery, where people have to wonder if they even exist in the first place. And he explains that it's because of the size of the team and the fact that there just isn't a way for him to talk to everyone on the platform. So Susan, in response to that, suggested why not have dedicated policy members whose job it is to relay policy information between creators and the policy team to be that bridge. And I love that. I didn't even suggest that. Susan, upon hearing that he can't do it himself, suggested a solution, which would be have members of the policy team whose position it is to be the bridge between the creator and the policy team. So there is a back and forth dialogue. And I love that. That's exactly what we've been asking for. For the entire history of this platform, you'd have better luck writing your problem on a soccer ball and kicking it towards their office and hoping the policy team looks at the ball than actually being able to talk to them. Partner managers don't have access to the policy team. Almost nobody does. It's like trying to get nuclear launch codes trying to get answers from the policy team. And Susan said that needs to change. The head of the department says he can't really do that himself because the team is pretty small and they have so much going through. So Susan suggested having members of the policy team whose position it is to relay information and have a dialogue between creators, the community, and the policy team. That is exactly what I was hoping to hear, and I'm extremely excited to see if they actually do follow through on that and implement a system like that. Being able to talk to the policy team is one of the biggest hurdles creators have had for a long time, because you have context for your videos. The policy team might not. And like he admitted on the phone, they make mistakes. And not having access to them means they don't get to correct those mistakes. And that brings me to the next thing I talked about, which is, why is the only way to get answers from the policy team or anyone at YouTube to make a big hoopla on Twitter? Why is that the only avenue creators can take to get answers from the platform? And they all unanimously agreed that that's the most inefficient means. They don't like that, but that's what it's become over the years. That's how it's evolved, and they're not happy with it. No one's happy with it, but that's what it is right now. and they're looking at ways of changing it in 2021. I don't know exactly what those are. They don't exactly know what that looks like either, but they are trying to improve the services they already offer, which is like the help section, giving partner managers more access, as Susan mentioned on the phone, and other means as well, letting Team YouTube illustrate more about what's going on and what's changing and helping more on that end to relay information from the company to the community. But they all agreed that it is a problem, that Twitter seems to be the only way to get answers from YouTube right now. But again, don't know how that's going to change, when, or what that's going to look like, but it was nice to at least hear they recognize it as a problem too. Which brought me to the next point I wanted to talk about. Why doesn't the policy team explain themselves? Why don't they go through exactly why they're maintaining a decision, why they made the decision in the first place, things like that. For example, Belle Delphine, when she had her channel banned, submitted an appeal, and the appeal was rejected. And what's supposed to happen is you get an explanation as for why it's rejected and why it still breaks the rules, but what happened is they just sent her a 2-sentence email saying, we're maintaining our decision, your appeal is rejected, and here's our FAQs. And I thought that was a massive problem because that same thing happens to me. Last time I appealed on the video with Viking Daughter, I made an appeal, it was rejected in a day, and I never even got an email. I never even got an explanation as to why. Obviously, that's not good. An entire channel being banned without explanation and without way of contacting, that's a recipe for disaster. And the policy head also recognized that as a fucking disaster too. He wasn't sugarcoating anything. He was able to recognize shortcomings, admit to mistakes, and offer solutions and ask for, feedback, what we thought on some of the things that they need to work on and how they should work on those things. He talked about some plans going forward into 2021 that I don't know if I'm allowed to relay. I don't want to take the chance and scare him away and have him go lock himself in the policy department again, because I think this is a huge step in the right direction, having him come on this call and talk to us. And he said he was willing to do more like it in the future, so I look forward to being able to maybe talk to this department a bit more and have them talk to other creators on the platform a bit more. So I don't want to take any chances in revealing sensitive information, but they recognize the problems. They're not oblivious to them. They're just working on the best ways of combating it, given the situation and everything going on. And I can respect that. I just wish they were more transparent with it, which is what brought me to another point I wanted to talk about. This one was geared towards everyone in the room, Susan, the policy team, everyone on the call. Why is YouTube so bad at communicating? They are not transparent at all, and when they try to be, it comes out really callous and soulless. And they understood that, and they agreed that they haven't hit the mark. The only person at YouTube that's really nailing the humanizing of the company is Ryan. Ryan Wyatt, the head of the YouTube gaming side of things. Ryan is excited about everything on the platform. He makes people excited. He engages with the community. He's got it figured out. And I pointed that out. I used Ryan as an example. Ryan is doing exactly what somebody at YouTube in that position should be doing. He's getting the community excited. He's relaying information effectively. He's engaging with people on the platform, and that's how it should be done. So when new policies are being implemented, instead of just making a 3-part tweet explaining them, leaving so much vague wording and gray area that scares people and makes them think that YouTube's new policy is going to make their fucking parents get divorced, maybe Susan or someone else at the higher up level at YouTube sits down with a creator or just makes a video going over all of the common questions or just explaining things a bit deeper. Susan has sat down with creators before, like MatPat last year, and taken hard questions and done her best to answer them, so that way people aren't afraid of the policies and explain what's going on and why. And I think things like that are good, and she should continue doing them. And she agreed and said she enjoyed doing it with MatPat last year. So I would look forward to that going forward, hopefully. And I think that's definitely a step in the right direction in relaying information using the platform. Talking with the people on the platform that make YouTube YouTube, so you can answer their questions and make sure that they're not worried and their audience isn't worried about things that might change on the platform. And speaking of creators, that brought me to the last question that I'm going to cover in this video today. There was more we talked about, but I think these are the main points, and I would hope that Susan and everyone on the team is open for more conversations with the community down the line so more questions can be answered. But the next one, and the last one I want to talk about today, is one that Nerd City brought up to me as well, and it's that creators like me just sitting in their room jerking off in their chair and making videos staring into a webcam aren't really on the same level as traditional media to the platform. It feels like YouTube doesn't care about creators so much as they do traditional mainstream media that's been integrating into the platform. For example, it felt like the Tonight Show hosts weren't held to the same bullying and harassment standards that creators were, because you'd have creators getting videos taken down and strikes because of harassment and bullying policies, whereas it felt like late night hosts and other mainstream outlets had free reign to shit on anyone they wanted without consequence. And that's all well and good, but that should be uniform across a platform. Everyone should have that same level of treatment. And it hasn't felt that way for a lot of creators. And I brought that up to Susan because I wanted to get her thoughts on it. And she really assured me that that's not the case. It may have been early on, unintentionally, but they have been working extremely hard over the last year or so to make sure trending isn't dominated by mainstream outlets. They want to make sure that the creators are showcased on trending. They want to make sure that policies are uniformly enforced across traditional and creator-generated content. That level of trust where they have, the level of trust they have with mainstream outlets, they want to have with creators, and they've been working hard on making sure that that's there. And it's just a matter of making sure it comes across that way. And to be fair, trending is no longer completely dominated by mainstream outlets. I don't check it that often, but when I do, I'm seeing a lot of like YouTuber shit in there. And in search and discovery, I'm not just seeing mainstream outlets. When I look for news, it's not only mainstream. I'm seeing Philip DeFranco and some other creators come up before them. So I do believe her when she says she cares about creators. She fucking sat down to talk to me. I'm not exactly what you'd consider the most family-friendly YouTuber. The last like 10 videos, 8 of them had me using a 3-foot, 80-pound dildo as like a punching bag and weights for weight training. And she was willing to sit down and take my feedback. And it's something you just don't really see from someone in her position of power. Talking to someone like Matt Pat on stage in person, even just taking this random video call with me just to get feedback and go over things like that is something that is really rare. I can't think of any other CEO of any big company that has ever done anything remotely like that. Take, for example, Twitch. What the fuck has the CEO of Twitch ever done with the community? He's never talked to a streamer, gotten feedback from streamers, taken questions from them. The only thing I've seen him do is wear a bow tie on a stream and talk out of his asshole about things Twitch isn't doing, but pretending that they are, like using context in their bans. Susan went out of her way to get feedback from the community. She did it when she talked with Matt Pat, and she did it today when she had a video call with me. I'm surprised she even saw my tweet. I'm more surprised she even runs her own Twitter. And then even doubly shocked that she saw the tweet and felt so strongly that she wanted to schedule time to talk. Like, that is not the actions of somebody that doesn't care. And I really commend her for that. So yeah, here's hoping in 2021 YouTube does make changes and does improve the platform. It's no secret that its reputation right now is a little dog shit. It's not great. But hopefully in 2021 they can turn that around, because after this video call today, I get the impression that they really do want to. So I'm excited and cautiously optimistic that they will improve and change things and listen more and be more transparent. Now, a year ago I would have said it's really fucking naive of me to say that, but after today I feel more confident saying that. So here's hoping I don't look like an idiot 6 months from now if YouTube doesn't change at all, but I'm hopeful that they will. That's about it. See ya. Lock your doors and hide under your bed all you want. It won't protect you from a menace on the loose. A maniac at large that not even SpongeBob could catch. Mass surveillance, control, and censorship. It's now at our doorstep here. A place many have called home. YouTube. They've just announced they're rolling out AI in the US to detect if users are actually under 18, ignoring whatever the account's stated age is, and will apply restrictions to users it suspects are teens. And if it suspects that you are not over 18, it will restrict what you have access to, and the only way to overturn that is by providing identification. That sounds awfully familiar. Does that ring any bells to anyone out there, you know, with what's going on over in the UK at the moment? I would certainly hope so. If it doesn't, go give your doctor a huge pat on the ass and tell him that the lobotomy was very successful, because you have lost all fucking brain function. It's now US citizens' turn to have the piss sucked from their balls here and all privacy completely thrown in the shitter. So, if YouTube's AI tools think that you're under 18, I hope you're ready to fork over your ID in order to continue to access certain YouTube content and features. When YouTube determines a user is teen or preteen, the site will disable personalized advertising, activate digital well-being features, and put stricter content filters as well as behavioral restrictions into place. Basically, YouTube will pop its titty into your mouth and breastfeed you here because your parents aren't fucking raising you. What a joyful, pleasant future where these greasy, greedy, ghoulish corporations are now going to be LARPing as your parental figures, deciding what you can and cannot access based on their estimation of your age. Because no longer are parents even expected to be parents anymore. The internet is now that. My papa is a fucking YouTube algorithm. It tells me what I can watch, what I'm allowed to consume. It's so fucking infuriating. The only thing here that makes any level of sense is like disabling personalized ads for kids, which is something I'm pretty sure the YouTube Kids app already does, which again, I don't even know why that app exists anymore with this effect, with this change going into effect. It's now just a redundancy if they're going to polymorph the main YouTube platform into basically catering to kids on it as well. It's fucking lunacy. It is not YouTube's responsibility to put the bumpers up in the bowling lane. The onus should be on the parents to ensure that their kids are not consuming harmful content on YouTube. It is crazy that YouTube is doing this. So they're using AI, which will assess a user's age via multiple behavioral factors, including what kind of videos the user searches for, the categories of videos they watch, and how long the account has been active per its blog post, which is very vague and also going to lead to so many accounts getting flagged as being under 18 that definitely are not. There are so many people in the Pokemon community, for example, that are adults. In fact, pretty much everybody that does Pokemon content online is like late 20s and early 30s at this point. That is like entirely an adult market, but it is a child's IP. Like, it is an IP that is catering towards kids. So pretty much anyone that searches for like Pokemon cards, Pokemon Showdown, really anything even adjacent to that, or like Nintendo games, like any gamers that play Nintendo games, all of those will be like a strike against them that could end with their account being deemed like under 18 or something. It's going to be absolute chaos, I imagine. This technology will allow us to infer a user's age and then use that signal regardless of the birthday in the account to deliver our age-appropriate product experiences and protections. If the AI estimation is incorrect, YouTube says it will allow a user to verify their age with a credit card, a government ID, or a selfie. Wow, what saints. You get the privilege of providing your identification or your biometric data to YouTube in order to prove that you are actually over 18. Surely that's going to be like really secure and it's not going to be used for any kind of like tracking or anything like that. Don't be ridiculous. Fucking tinfoil condom conspiracy theorist. There's nothing wrong with forking over all of your identification and your credit card information to corporations or the government directly, so that way they can actively monitor you and censor you and basically control what you have access to. What's the big deal? It's so absurd, man. I cannot believe how quickly this is getting out of control. Like I told you, it was not exclusive to just the UK. It is already touched down here and it hasn't even been a week. It hasn't even been a week. That snowball has already become a full fucking shitstorm avalanche. It is terrible. It's scary. It's very scary. This article also mentions something else. The rollout of the new feature comes one day after Australia's government announced it would ban children under 16 from using YouTube, and less than a week after UK implemented the sweeping age checks on content on social media networks. YouTube was promised an exemption from Australia's social media ban last year by the then communications minister, but the Australian government said on Monday that the platform would in fact be included in the country's ban on children under 16 using social networks. The ban is slated to take effect in December. Google, YouTube's parent company, strenuously advocated against the Australian ban and has threatened to sue to overturn it. That subject they mentioned there about the Australian government banning kids from making social media accounts is a topic that I briefly touched on like a year ago. But in a nutshell, this is something I've said a lot. The entire landscape of social media has changed so much over the last decade, drastically, where I do think it is downright dangerous and detrimental for kids to just have unlimited access to things like Twitter, for example. So, I do think that it's not exactly a good thing to just have kids making social media accounts and just fucking rotting away on them. I do think that that is harmful, but there is no way of actually stopping that in a way that doesn't step on everyone's freedoms. And at the time, it just didn't even really dawn on me because the way it was being spoken about was just like, oh, don't worry, the methods we're coming up with are, we're making sure privacy is still top of mind. We don't want to encroach on that. We're just trying to think of ways to, help kids not get, sucked into social media degeneracy and all of that. And when you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, I guess that, makes sense. But when you really stop to think about it and you stop and, really fucking smell it, it's very clear that there's no way of doing that without just stripping freedoms from everybody else. Like, how the fuck are you possibly going to stop that from happening? And it also shouldn't be the government's responsibility nor the platform's responsibility to ensure that kids aren't making those accounts. It is the parents. Like, no matter how you spin it, it should always come back to the parents. And what YouTube did initially, and what I thought was the right direction, was having a separate platform specifically for that age group, YouTube Kids. So that way, that group, those kids, would not be going to main YouTube. They would be on that platform, which is safe for them. And the parents' responsibility would be ensuring that they are on YouTube Kids, not main YouTube. But now what's happening is every company is now putting in these age verification checks, which require ID or biometric data, which, as we're seeing unfold in real time rapidly, leads to just basically control and mass surveillance. That's the entire underlying motive behind all of it. It's not about protecting kids. It's not about making sure kids aren't getting access to like dangerous social media, content or anything like that. It is all about getting more of your information so they can monitor you more effectively. It's not a conspiracy. It is just right in your face censorship, control, and mass surveillance. And YouTube now taking this step is extremely concerning. And obviously, as everyone's pointing out, it is not going to be 100% accurate. I would be shocked if it's even close to 50% accurate. Break this shit down to its bare butt cheeks real quick. If it's going to be like making these guesses off of like the content you're watching or your searches, there is so much wiggle room for error. Because like, let's say you watch an anime, trailer or something. I imagine YouTube would probably put that into like a cartoon bin, which would then be falling under like a under 18 bin, which would be a strike against you. What if you like misspell something in the searches? Like what if you accidentally make a typo? Does that make them think that you might be a kid as well? Or what about something like autoplay? Like let's say you put on like a real adult video, you look at fucking day trading tutorials, but it autoplays to something else, which is like making slime or some shit, because YouTube's recommended algorithm is fucking wild. Like you could easily just be flagged as an under 18 account, and then, well, if you want to keep using your account and have access to all the content and features that you've been used to, you're gonna need to fork over that ID or at least show us your face. Give us some of that sweet biometric data currency, please. And I hope you'll say no. That is not something you should ever be comfortable with giving any company. It is a big problem, and there needs to be something done about this. It is truly out of control now, and it's here coming to YouTube. So, yep, just another concerning act of censorship and surveillance here, and it's not just overseas anymore. That's really about it. See ya.
I've always been known for my bravery, and today will be no different. I'm gonna hit you with a hot take, so buckle your seatbelt, because I'm not pulling these punches, I'm not holding anything back. I'm gonna say what others are too afraid to say. Pedophilia's bad. Thank you. I know. Hey, someone had to say it. Someone had to come in and put their foot down and say, enough is enough, I'm no hero, but let me explain what prompted this courageous act for me today. A few days ago, a YouTuber named Mama Max posted a video called Pick a Side YouTube, and in the video he discusses a serious problem on the platform where creators that focus on darker subject matter are often censored, like Mama Max. This is actually a channel I've talked about before in the past. He's had his asshole stretched by YouTube full goatee. He's had multiple videos taken down and striked for the most trivial of reasons. And it's mainly because the subject matter, because a lot of his content is investigations and exposing or talking about bad actors online, like a pedophile ring in a game or something like that. And in this video, he talks about that and how he feels like it's a serious problem. He brings in other content creators who have also experienced similar unfair enforcement of the rules against their content just because what they were talking about was darker. For example, bringing up Dan Schneider, the Nickelodeon guy who loved children's feet. He ran that Twitter campaign of, hey kids, show me pictures of your feet. Haha. So when a content creator has brought up Dan Schneider in the past, they have experienced some problems where there'll be like a strike on the channel or the video gets blocked or taken down or something, and it just feels really fucking weird where it's like, Jesus, does Dan Schneider have foot fetish assassins at YouTube HQ just flipping switches to take down content that calls it out? So the whole video that Mama Max posted basically focuses on this very real problem where when a creator investigates something dark or talks about something that's pretty grim, they're the ones most at risk, not the people they're really talking about. So by just bringing these topics to light, there's been multiple times where they have been the ones to receive a strike or have their content blocked. So obviously for a lot of people, they feel like YouTube just prefers to bury this kind of information instead of trying to help the people that are affected by the bad actors that get investigated. YouTube instead just punishes the people for investigating it. And it feels very unfair. YouTube prefers to throw all this kind of content into a cum dumpster, light it on fire, and forget about it. Clearly a pretty dogshit solution, because if the content's getting taken down, less people know about it, which means more victims. So, a very serious problem. Now, this is where I get involved directly in this whole thing, because at the end of Mama Max's video, he wanted to make a shitstorm. He said he wanted to squeeze YouTube by their balls. He wanted to grab that goddamn nutsack and clap it together like he was fucking Hulk smashing it. So in order to put pressure on YouTube, his solution was to get a viral Twitter trend going. And the Twitter hashtag he chose was Pick a Side YouTube, and the two sides that YouTube has to pick from are either children or pedophiles. Whose side are you on? Good versus evil. The pretty wild ultimatum here. And you thought you had it rough when you had to decide between cereal or coffee for breakfast. Imagine YouTube's situation here. Do you choose the children or the pedophiles? And then he tags a lot of creators, hoping that they would talk about it and get traction there. At the end of his video, he also calls people out to talk about it. And I completely disagreed with this approach here. And I mentioned it briefly on stream. And I stream every single day, twitch.tv/moistcritical. Please feel free to stop in, put a few extra inches on your penis. I'd love to see you in there. I'll put the link in the description so it's nice and easy. I mentioned it on stream, and since then, I've been labeled a pedophile defender by some people on Twitter, or a YouTube shill by others. Which I couldn't fucking believe. I never thought there'd be a day where anyone in the goddamn world would think I stood up for pedophiles when I have an entire podcast of 270-something episodes, almost all of them dedicated to shitting on pedophiles. But anyway, I guess because I disagreed with this silly hashtag, all of a sudden I got out Captain America's shield and I'm putting the pedophiles behind me. Get behind me, boys. I got us covered. I'll take the hits here. But let me explain. I think the pick a side, children or pedophiles, is extremely goofy and distorts the actual message of his video. The message of his video is very much YouTube censors dark content. They unfairly treat people who investigate serious things. And as a direct result of this censorship, it leads to more kids being harmed, more victims, and these disgusting, evil, fucking stinky, yucky groups existing in the shadows, because the content that has called them out and brought it to light has been taken down. So it does create more problems for more people, more victims. That's the point of his video. YouTube taking down this informative content and using every excuse imaginable to do it. Hey, we had to strike this entire video down because at 3 minutes and 7 seconds into the video, there's an animated character's butt cheek playfully poking out from their swimsuit. So the whole thing's coming down. You fucked up. Sorry, big guy. You know, it's like, what do you mean? This is a very trivial problem. It's a goddamn animated character. You could have just, like, told me to blur it and it would have been fine. The point is, by taking the videos down that are informing people of dangerous groups, it in turn creates more victims of those groups because they don't know about it anymore. And that's the problem that Mama Max's video was highlighting, and YouTube brushing it all under the rug. Because they want their reputation to be more squeaky clean. They don't want these kind of, like, bad actors brought to light on their platform because they think it might be a bad look for the platform. So they unfairly treat those creators. It's a real, serious problem. And it's one I've actually talked about quite a bit in the past. In Mama Max's video, he brings up the interview I had with the YouTube CEO, Susan. He mentions that it hasn't aged well. And admittedly, he's right. A lot of the things I talked to with Susan and the policy team, they haven't come to fruition. They still haven't been implemented. They said they were aiming for 2021 to be a great year with all of these new features that would help creators, and a lot of them aren't there, almost none of them. But they have added a couple things, like now you have timestamps when you get a strike for, you know, what was the violation. So at the very least, they're adding a little bit. But yeah, it hasn't aged well. But what I did, and what I mentioned to them back then, is this problem. I even mentioned Mama Max by name and explained his situation to the YouTube policy team when I was on that phone call with Susan and the policy team. I highlighted this issue because it's an issue that I'm pretty passionate about, and it's a very serious one that needs to be addressed. This also comes into play with Mama Max's video, if you remember that controversy that happened, where Mama Max had this huge video that got taken down, and it was taken down, if I remember correctly, because he showed a phone number for like 3 seconds on screen. Well, instead of taking that whole video down, why not just let Mama Max know, take this out and the video stays up? I'm sure he would have obliged using YouTube's editing tools. So I wanted to make sure that they heard that suggestion, and I thought Mama Max did a great job in his video until the end, where he turned it into a you're either with us or with the pedophiles type thing. Even though the message of his video isn't YouTube is protecting pedophiles, he's not saying YouTube is a sanctuary for pedophiles in his video, but his hashtag implies that. And I think it's counterproductive and doesn't really accomplish anything at all. It's a message, his video, I think almost everyone would agree with the message. But the hashtag, I feel like most people would find that silly and just write it off right away. Because it doesn't actually highlight the problem. It's just like this out of nowhere, hey YouTube, do you like kids or do you like pedophiles? The people that fuck those kids, huh? Do you like them? Or do you like the kids? You know, it doesn't do anything. Like there's no even like outrage that it generates. It's just like, what the fuck is this? Because if you watch the video, you have the entire situation laid out with the unfair treatment and censorship of content creators that are covering serious topics. And then you get to the end and it goes like full fucking V for Vendetta. Tonight there will be a shitstorm. I'm going to make YouTube choose the ultimate sacrifice. Where will they stand? With the kids or with those pedophiles, eh? I like Mama Max, and I really like the majority of the video until it gets to the end, because that completely changes the perception of the issue. I imagine most people who don't know the situation and don't know Mama Max will see this and just be like, what the fuck is going on here? And assume it's like another one of those wake up YouTube situations, if you guys remember that from like a year or two ago. I forgot the dude's name. I think his name was like Matt something. Matt Wabblemaster, Matt Wumbo, whatever. I don't remember his name. But he started that whole Wake Up YouTube where he exposed that YouTube was enabling pedophiles and even recommending pedophile content to other pedophiles or whatever the fuck was going on then. And it started that whole adpocalypse. Most people remember that situation. And then they'll see this kind of trend going on, they'll just assume it's kind of the same thing and write it off immediately. Because when you see this Twitter hashtag and you see all the people talking about it, it paints YouTube as this sanctuary for pedophiles like Jeffrey Epstein's island. It makes it seem like YouTube's protected pedophiles for long enough, now it's time they choose the kids for once. When that's not the argument he's making. His argument is because YouTube keeps censoring the content where we're calling these kind of people out, it puts the kids in jeopardy. So the issue is more the YouTube censorship, taking down content that focuses on dark things. And that is the problem. Not that YouTube is choosing to cater to pedophiles or anything like that. So the message gets totally distorted and it just creates a hostile environment where people fight each other, even though everyone's on the same side. It just causes all of this infighting, because when people point this out that like, hey, this isn't the most effective Twitter trend to get the message across, they're immediately labeled pro-pedophilia. I've seen it non-stop from anyone that dares question the efficiency of this Twitter hashtag. They immediately get dogpiled by others, accusing them of defending pedophiles or picking YouTube's side like, oh, so you've chosen where your allegiances lie now, and it's with those pedophiles, huh? Like, it's kind of disgusting, actually, to try and make like a war out of it when everyone in that battle is kind of on the same side. Everyone agrees with the message of the Mama Max video, but disagrees that it needs to be painted as a kids versus pedophiles issue, because that doesn't actually encapsulate the problem. So that's all I was saying, is that I think that was the worst possible approach to getting the issue highlighted for people that aren't already in the know about the situation. because again, that pick a side, children or pedophiles thing, I just didn't think that was the right play. If you wanted something that would actually like highlight what was going on, it should have been more focused on the core problem of YouTube censorship, especially when it could directly harm kids if you wanted to focus on that angle. YouTube censorship can harm kids by allowing these kind of fucking bad assholes out there, these dangerous people, to keep hurting them or doing awful shit. That's what I was saying. The hashtag does nothing to aid in solving the problem or even highlighting to the problem to people that don't already know about it. All it did was split people who were already on the same side and had them fighting amongst themselves for no reason and getting labeled terrible shit just because they thought the hashtag was ineffective at getting the problem out there. So I just don't think it accomplished anything. I really do think it was counterproductive. There would have been a better hashtag to use if that was the direction he thought was best, which was Twitter traction. And I agree that's usually a very good course of action since Team YouTube is very active on Twitter. But there should have been a better hashtag that actually highlighted the problem that YouTube could have potentially addressed and brought forward. Like, look, we can see there's an issue going on here, but they're not going to do that with pick a side, children or pedophiles, because they don't know what the issue is if they're just looking at that hashtag. They don't know what's going on. It doesn't do anything besides just confuse people and make people angry at each other, thinking that one side's defending pedophiles and the other's whatever. Again, that's the point I was making. That's about it. So yeah. Earlier this week, YouTube slyly pushed out a new policy change that has had a wildly large effect on tons of channels in terms of demonetizing their content and as well as just generally making it very difficult for some creators to continue to produce what they have been. They still haven't said anything about this, to my knowledge, at least not publicly or clearly. They're remaining silent on it, treating it like it's the Coca-Cola secret formula here. They're, for some reason, very apprehensive to tell people about this, so I've become the unofficial messenger of letting people know what's going on. I made a video on this 4 days ago, and I don't want to just repeat myself here, but they released this policy change, and it's all in plain English, but it might as well be hieroglyphics because it leaves so much room for interpretation, and the way that it's currently being enforced seems completely random. But I'm going to go ahead and give you like the general breakdown of what I've talked about and also what I've now learned. So they've changed their rules around profanity, making it a lot more strict in my opinion, where pretty much all profanity is treated equally, whereas before things like fuck were considered a different tier which could lead to demonetization. Now, if you even say ass or dirty butt, there's a chance you might get demonetized for that kind of foul potty mouth if it's said within the first 8 to 15 seconds of a video. That's the safe space, like a treaty with YouTube, where if you violate it and you say anything that's not part of just standard Queen's English, you're going to get demonetized, no questions asked, and you can't really argue otherwise. It's not going to get changed. However, if you've got the mouth of a sailor and you happen to say too many naughty words throughout a video, you can also get demonetized for that, but it's very unclear exactly what the limit is. What's too many naughty words? How many fucks are we allowed, No one really knows yet, but it seems all over the place. And keep in mind, since now there's no longer like a tier list of swear words where, fuck is S tier and we're afraid of that at YouTube, they're all in the same tier except for a couple exceptions like hell and damn. Now there's a chance that if you go on a shitting spree where you're just, mentioning shit, you get real heated in a game, you're like, man, you're such a pile of shit, the worst gamer of all time. Like, if you say that too many times, I believe it now carries a risk of demonetization since it's viewed in the same light as saying fuck a lot. That's all still very muddy, but they are clearly cracking down harder on profanity in general. And now I want to talk about something that I didn't even know existed when I made the last video that a lot of people have been talking about. And it's not 100% confirmed, so take it with a grain of salt. But there's something called auto-generated captions on YouTube, which I'm sure you've seen and used before. And they can occasionally have a conniption. Like, it'll get the words wrong when they try and transcribe them, and it just looks like a fucking game of Mad Libs. Like, it's completely all over the place from time to time, very off the mark, sometimes just genuinely gibberish. Like someone waking up after a deep slumber and fumbling all of their words around. But
as far back as 2018, these auto-generated captions can have an effect on the monetization status of a video. So if the auto-generated captions misunderstand a word, like in this example, they thought one of the words was porn, it can lead to a demonetization, allegedly. Again, this is all speculative, but since this new policy has been rolling out in such huge force with tons of channels being hit and this massive wave of demonetization, some family-friendly channels are getting caught here, and they're all very confused because they don't use profanity, they don't play violent video games, and yet they're still getting demonetized, and they've been wondering why. So they turned back to potentially the auto-generated captions getting words wrong, and in a couple of cases it seems like that seems to have been the culprit. So again, not 100% confirmed, and that may be just like a fluke and happens occasionally, but it is worth mentioning because I think it's statistically significant in light of how strict YouTube now seems to want to be on profanity. But the big one that I'm going to be focusing on today that I've learned a lot about recently is the violent content policy changes. I did mention it in the last one, but I've learned a lot more about it now. I'm going to talk about the violent gaming content policy changes in a moment since I already touched on those and I've only learned a little bit more about it. But where I learned a lot more is just general violent content, no matter what the genre. Animation, hand-drawn, cartoon, anything. Like even just still images. So in the last video, I mentioned that one of my most recent uploads got demonetized with this new wave out of nowhere when there's no profanity until like the very end of the video. And the only thing that pops up before then is our trailer for God Slap 2, which is an animation, and there is violence towards the end of that trailer. It's about 15 seconds worth of like blood and gore. But that comes at a minute 45 into the video, which is way outside of their 15 to 30 second grace period where they don't want anything violent. And it got demonetized. So I speculated it got demonetized because that content was deemed too violent. Even though I don't think it was anything disturbing or shocking over the top violence, I speculated that that must have been the case since profanity wasn't an issue. Violence also wasn't an issue in the early parts of the video or anything. It's just 15 seconds that does have some blood and guts. I asked YouTube directly, and my representative told me that I was probably right. Most likely what caused that demonetization is it was flagged for being too violent to be monetized because of that one 15-second scene. Now, of course, I may be biased, but I really don't think that this is too shockingly gory and gross where people are going to be fucking puking after seeing it. But it did show me that not only are they cracking down on like violent gaming content, they're cracking down on violent content in any medium, even just animated. And I really just still don't think that this is that violent to begin with. At least not enough to warrant a demonetization because again, this wasn't demonetized until this new policy rolled out. Not just video games, it's not just animated content, it's not just real life content where someone's like in a fight or something like that, or someone gets like a tooth knocked out. It's also just still images of just drawn images, like just a fucking picture, like a cartoon picture, not even an animated one, not even a picture that moves. I learned this by watching Comics Explained new video where he reviews our God Slap comic book. I don't know if it's just this policy hates God Slap or if this really does extend to just any kind of medium at all, including just still images, but regardless, Comics Explained posted this video reviewing issue 1 of God Slap. It was a very, very sweet review, and I really appreciated it. The whole team found it to be super, super nice, and I'm really happy to hear that he liked it so much. However, he got demonetized for even posting some of the frames. Now, there is violence and gore in the comic, of course, but once again, it's just comic book pages. I don't think it's anything that's like egregious and tasteless or anything that I feel warrants demonetization. It's kind of ridiculous just how strict this violent content policy is. There's no profanity in the first 30 seconds or anything. Everything from this video plays by YouTube's ad guideline rules, except for the vagueness of their violent content policy change. So just even showing some panels that have violence got him demonetized. So it is extremely strict. They're coming down very, very hard on anything that's not YouTube Kids oriented, it feels like. Violent gaming content now can get age restricted and demonetized far more frequently than we've ever seen before. I've been on this platform since 2006, on this channel since 2007. I have never seen such strict enforcement of violent gaming videos. I swear to God, if you're playing a game where you're not giving kisses to the enemy to defeat them, you're probably going to get demonetized for it now. I've had a ton more videos on games get demonetized recently than I would have ever expected. Of course, I'm exaggerating a bit. I'm not trying to put the fear of God in anyone. I'm not trying to say that if you play Roblox Shadow Company and you get too many kills too quickly, the video's gonna get demonetized for fucking violent terrorism because you piled up too many bodies too quickly. I'm just saying that they're cracking down on violent gaming content, and a lot of videos I've made on just normal shooters that weren't demonetized before are demonetized now. When it's not anything that's like shocking or disturbing or anything like that, it's just normal games. And if we turn our attention to the policy itself when it comes to gaming, it becomes even more confusing because in this policy here on what can earn ad revenue under gaming, it says graphic scenes like gory attacks outside the first 15 seconds of the video or violence that's unrealistic, all of that. Like, this is the old policy. Like, that sounds normal. The only difference is now it seems like they just don't want the video to start with violent gaming content. Like, they don't want the video to open and all of a sudden it's the scene out of Outlast where you're getting your dick cut off or anything. Which is, that's fine. That's not like the biggest change in the world that's gonna like ruin entire creators' channels or anything. It's pretty easy just to make sure that for 15 seconds you don't have like wild blood and gore splattering all over the screen, and also keeping violent thumbnails out of it is another thing that they clearly don't want. All of that's totally normal and totally easy to play around. But then I started scratching my head because when you go into the limited or no ad revenue section and go to gaming, again, the first thing makes sense, you know, don't want any gory shit or anything violent in the thumbnail or in the beginning. That they've made that clear. But underneath that, graphic game violence includes brutal killings or severe injuries focusing on bodily fluids and parts such as beheading and dismemberment. I get the bodily fluids. They don't want pee, poop, vomit, cum squirting all over the place. Okay, I get that. But dismemberment and, you know, severe graphic killings, what exactly does that mean? Like, I don't think in any of the gaming videos that most creators make, the focus is on the dismemberment and gore and, you know, like doing snow angels and intestines and blood on the floor. However, it seems like those videos are getting hit regardless just because there is that component to the games sometimes. And dismemberment in games has been commonplace for fucking 20 years now. Team Fortress 2, when you die, you can get like insta-gibbed, you have body parts and you explode into blood and stuff. Like, does that now count as being too severe because there is dismemberment there? I mean, shit, even in Roblox, when I was playing those squid games with the boogeyman Jim Wool, in a couple of the games, if you fail, your like arms and head pop off. Like, it's what is the line? This vagueness and this reluctance to communicate leads to this situation where the community can only speculate on what exactly is and is not allowed, because even though YouTube writes out their definitions of what is and is not advertiser friendly, the enforcement paints a very different picture. It's very hard to play by their rules when we don't have a clear understanding of what they are or how they apply to the platform. It is so fucking frustrating that I continue to have to get splintered information from a ton of creators, as well as my own research, as well as my own YouTube contact, who also doesn't have all of the information at hand because internally YouTube doesn't allow him access to all the information at hand. So it's so fucking frustrating and so goddamn difficult. But it really seems like they're cracking down on a lot of things that make no sense at all. I just wanted to give a little follow-up here with more information I learned to keep everyone as knowledgeable on the policy changes as possible, so that way you can navigate what's best for your careers, your channels going forward. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Yesterday, the CEO of YouTube stepped down. Susan announced that she would be walking away from the company and would be taking on a smaller role at Google, and she'd no longer be the public face of YouTube, a face that has historically been treated like a toilet seat by the community. Susan has shouldered the blame for the majority of the things wrong with the platform, and rightfully so, I would argue. She's basically just been the community's spittoon. For any time there's something wrong, people just start spitting on her and accusing her of being the mastermind, the puppet master behind all of the bad decisions. Whether or not that's true, I have no idea, but she was the CEO, and there were a lot of things that needed fixing, never got fixed, and YouTube has been in a tumultuous state over the 9 years of her at the helm. However, this led a lot of people to believe that with Susan stepping down, things would magically improve. a lot of people were pessimistic, but then over the course of the night, I noticed a lot more people being like, this is great, the platform's gonna be saved, holy shit, now we can have fucking Captain Underpants come in here and bring about the golden age, or, you know, this and that. Because Susan's no longer there, I mean, she's going to have to be replaced by somebody great, was the perception a lot of people started to adopt. However, in the wise words of Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, there's always a shittier fish. It was announced who the new CEO would be, and over the course of the night, people started to look into them. The new CEO is Neil Mohan, and Neil Mohan was previously the CPO of YouTube, the Chief Product Officer, and people found out that Neil Mohan was actually the one responsible for that huge push YouTube tried to make into the Web3 crypto NFT space. In 2022, this goofball proudly posted YouTube's most embarrassing update. It was a look at what's coming for the year, but what was really standing out to most people at the time was this ham-fisting of Web3, blockchain, and NFT shit. So Web3 opens up new opportunities for creators. We believe new technologies like blockchain and NFTs can allow creators to build deeper relationships with their fans. Spoken like a true asshole who owns 2 Bored Apes and thinks he's going to own the planet. Together, they'll be able to collaborate on new projects and make money in ways not previously possible, for example, giving a verifiable way for fans to own unique videos, photos, art, and even experiences from their favorite creators could be a compelling prospect for creators and their audiences. So basically, just trying his best to justify an inclusion of Web3 crypto NFT shit. I'm going to tell you right now, NFT is one of the yuckiest words in the human language right now. It is an acronym that elicits more pain than CBT, cock and ball torture. It's painful, and it's synonymous with scams. And this was during a time where NFT crypto scams were still rampant. It's not like this was before the huge wave of bad actors came in and ruined NFTs. No, NFTs have been a scam for quite some time, even during this time that Neil tried to push it to YouTube. So there was huge pushback, and I guess somewhere along the pipeline, some team decided to slap this idea down, because we got lucky enough to not have it come to YouTube. But now that NFT Neil's at the helm here, the one at the top of the food chain calling the shots, who's to say he won't dust off this little poop nugget here that's an absolutely atrocious idea? And maybe this time around there's not that rogue vigilante Batman to say, not on my watch, and decline the idea. He is, like, the leader now of YouTube. And it's a little concerning how hog wild he wanted to go with Web3 coming to the platform. So that is very, not great, and a lot of people are much more pessimistic now after learning about this. But it also gets even worse. As Chief Product Officer of YouTube, that means Neil would have also had a hand in removing dislikes. Now, I'm not putting this entirely on his shoulders. This was a decision made by a lot of people at the highest level of YouTube. But Neil, as the CPO, would have 100% had a say in it, and it's very possible that he was for the removing of dislikes, which is another huge problem. That is still one of the worst features, or really removal of a feature, YouTube has ever had, and they still haven't backpedaled on it. And with Neil at the helm, I'm very less optimistic about it coming back, since he was already in a position that likely played a huge role in bringing it to the platform in the first place. I see a lot of people misattributing this solely to a Neil idea, but I can find no information on him being the one that proposed it. He was just leading a team that obviously worked on it. So maybe there is a chance Neil was outspoken against it but overruled by his peers. I'm hoping that's the case. Like I said, there's a very easy layup here with Neil as CEO to immediately earn the trust of the entire community, and that's to announce that dislikes are coming back. Dislikes will be public again. If he did that tomorrow, he's like, listen guys, I'm a champion of the people here. I'm bringing back dislikes. This was awful. I don't know what we were thinking. We were drinking stupid juice at the office when we came up with this idea. It's coming back. If he did that, everyone would immediately rally behind him and be like, oh my god, YouTube could possibly improve. He's going to listen to community feedback. This is great. But I'm not sold on that being in the realm of possibility ever. I'd like it to be, but after reading all of this about Neil, I'm starting to think he may have been a pretty important figure behind the scenes for some of the worst features that YouTube was toying around with. But again, this is speculation. He could come in and do an amazing job, and that's what I'm hoping for, but it is not a great start considering what he's publicly tried to bring to the platform in the way of fucking NFTs. Like that, the fact that he proudly posted about NFTs coming to YouTube and him wanting to be the one to spearhead the operation, that's just such a bad look off rip. Like that, you couldn't have started your reign as CEO in a worse way. It would have been better if his fucking nudes leaked. Like that's so much worse as being the guy trying to bring NFTs to the platform. Oh my god. But again, it remains to be seen. He could come in here and knock it out of the park. Really fix up YouTube, really bring it to a better spot. Hopefully that'll be the case. I'm going to try not to focus too much on his past and instead look more at his future here as YouTube CEO. So yeah, anyway, just wanted to talk about this just a little bit. That's about it. So yeah. What's up everybody, it's Critical. Today is a very special day for me. I've been on YouTube for 10 years now, and I'm finally about to hit that 1,000,000 subscriber mark. I want to thank each and every one of you, from the people who have supported me since I had 1.8 million subscribers a couple days ago, till when I finally reached 985,000. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but Charlie, didn't you hit 1,000,000 subscribers a couple years ago? And yes, that is true. It was September of 2014, I believe, that I hit 1,000,000 subscribers for the first time. But thanks to the beauty of YouTube, I'm able to relive this moment again 3 years later. It's kind of like how married couples will renew their vows sometime down the line just to let each other know that they're still madly in love and the spark is still there, the rim job's still fresh, clean, and dirty. That's kind of what I'm doing here with YouTube. I'm renewing my 1,000,000 subscriber vows, just so that way I know for a fact YouTube still likes to fuck me. This experience has also bestowed upon me the prestigious title of the fastest declining YouTube channel in all of YouTube's history. I've been fucking speed running the dead YouTube channel game right now. I lost 1,000,000 subscribers in 5 minutes. I uploaded a video at 1.8 million subscribers. By the time the video was done uploading, I was down to 985,000. It was like a fucking magic trick. The sleight of hand was me uploading the video while YouTube was doing the magic disappearing trick behind my back. But I know the secret to this magic trick. It's just bad programming. I'm aware it's probably a YouTube glitch, but on the slim chance it's not, let's play with this a little bit and lay it all out. So, 5 minutes losing 1,000,000 subscribers. What are things that you can do in 5 minutes? I can lose a game of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds in 5 minutes. I could have sexual intercourse coitus in 5 minutes and still have 4 minutes and 30 seconds to spare after I've blown my load. I can start trying to thaw out an ice cream, but it wouldn't be done thawing out by the time I've lost 1,000,000 subscribers. Point I'm making is there's not a whole lot you can do in 5 minutes, and yet I was able to accomplish the colossal task of losing 1,000,000 subscribers in this short amount of time, according to YouTube's dashboard. That has never been done before in the history of YouTube. Maybe the entire history of the internet, maybe even the entire history of anime. To put this number into perspective for you, let's say you take 1,000,000 people, you put them in a room, 1,000,000 people leave that room. That's what just happened. It's historic. Really, it's just biblical more than anything. And I just want to say thank you, YouTube. I couldn't be happier. It doesn't get said enough. A lot of people take YouTube for granted, and they give them a lot of shit, rightfully so. I mean, sometimes YouTube deserves some shit. They've done a lot of weird things, you know. Right now, they're blacklisting YouTube channels, a lot of videos being demonetized for no reason, the adpocalypse, a lot of different shit going on right now, but I think it's time that some of us say thank you, YouTube. Thank you for allowing me to relive the 1,000,000 subscriber special mark. Alright, that's it. So yeah. What's up, everybody? It's Critical. Today I want to tell you how shitty my previous YouTube network, Maker Studios, was. I've just been released with my contract from Maker, and it took me over 2 years of constantly trying to stop them from auto-renewing my contract to do it. So today I just wanted to go over every shitty, shady, sketchy, sweaty, stinky thing Maker has done over the 5 years that I've been held down and smothered by their pussy-keggling contract. So I'll start from the beginning. The whole reason I ever got partnership on YouTube was to donate money to charity because I wanted to try and make a difference, and I wasn't struggling financially because I was living with my parents at the time, so I wasn't in danger of being homeless and having to eat Snickers bars out of strippers' assholes or anything like that. And then Maker came along and said, hey, we'll offer you this contract. It was a 60-40 split, and at the time that sounded great to me. I didn't realize that the standard, even to this day, is still a 90-10 or an 80-20 split in favor of the content creator. So immediately Maker took their first opportunity to blast my anus with a bad deal, because they knew I wasn't going to care too much about the financial side since I wasn't going to need it to be able to survive since I was just donating it. They knew I wasn't going to pay too much attention to it or do a lot of research into it. And that contract auto-renewed about 3 times and lasted over the course of 3 years, something like that. I eventually got a better contract from him. I think it went up to 70-30. I think that's the highest contract I ever had with Maker. And that's not the problem here. I still don't care about the contract splits or anything like that. But over the course of the 5 years, I've had 4 channel managers. All 4 of them have quit, and not once have they ever notified me that the channel manager was leaving or they were assigning me a new one. I just had no fucking idea. I was being left in the dark. I was like a little kid that their parents took to the supermarket and then the parents just fucking left them there. What are you supposed to do? I've never had any way of contacting Maker. Their support line does absolutely fucking nothing. And if you don't have your channel manager there to be that bridge, then you just have no way of getting in touch with Maker. And even the channel managers were fucking impossible to contact. I would send them a Skype message, hear nothing back for a week, send them another one, hear nothing back for another week, send them one more and they'd be like, oh, sorry, I was eating dinner. You eating a fucking Last Supper? What was that? Why did it take you 3 fucking weeks to eat dinner and respond to this message? Just absolutely abysmal communication between content creator and Maker. Another thing they blew dickhole at was getting the checks to me on time per month. It would sometimes take up to 3 months to get one check from Maker. I guess they just fucking folded the check into a paper airplane and threw it during a strong breeze and hoped it made it to me. And asking Maker's staff about where my check was the equivalent to asking my dog about it. They just didn't fucking answer me. Now the straw that really fucked the camel's asshole here, that really pissed me off about Maker Studios, was last year when my channel got disabled due to false copyright strikes. I could not contact Maker no matter what. I did everything possible to get in contact with him. I would have had an easier time trying to make first contact with aliens. Finally, against all the odds though, my channel manager replied to me and said, sorry, our hands are tied, there's absolutely nothing we can do, just wait till your channel gets re-enabled in 2 weeks. That made me fucking furious, because I knew they were false copyright strikes and it would take no effort for them to just get them removed. So the only person that was able to help me there was Ethan from H3H3, who put me in contact with a guy at Google who was like, oh wow, this is total bullshit, we're gonna take these away right away. Within 5 hours, the channel was back up and running. Something that Maker couldn't do over the course of a week, and then tell me that it couldn't do it all? Fuck you, Maker. Maker Studios is just so lazy, so unorganized, and just doesn't give a fuck about any of the people in their network. Now, over the course of the last year, I've placed 4 support tickets with Maker to not have my contract auto-renew itself, which I think is just a scummy business practice in and of itself. A contract shouldn't auto-renew. You should have to sign off on it each time it tries to renew. But regardless, whatever, that's how they do things. And all 4 of those support tickets have not been answered, except for the last one, which I'll touch on in a second. Now, during the course of these not getting responded to, I kept trying to get in touch with my channel manager, but when I would try and email him, it would say his email is disabled. So what the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm not getting support tickets responded to, and my channel manager has apparently been kidnapped by fucking Jack Bauer, so there's really not a whole lot I can do with Maker. So I went on Twitter and I posted about how fucking tired of Maker I was, and then almost immediately, well, immediately relatively speaking in Maker terms, 2 days later Maker responds saying, you will be free from your contract this coming February. So going to Twitter, making a big public hoopla about it is apparently the only way that Maker will at least acknowledge something's going on. So there's a lot more to talk about with Maker, but I don't want to make this video super long. I just want to let everyone out there know, do not sign with Maker. It's just a warning to all of you, do not get on board with Maker. Yeah, that's about it. That's the Maker Studios PSA. Fuck you, Maker Studios. See ya. I have made a total of 14 videos over the last 6 years bitching and shitting on YouTube for various policy changes and features, awful fucking features that no one, not even the devil himself, would think of, and just horrible different directions they've taken the site. I'm going to address the elephant in my asshole right now. I have a pretty big cold right now, nose real runny, throat's all fucking craggly and full of phlegm, so if I sound different, that's why. And I'm gonna blame YouTube for that as well. It's almost like reading that new update, fucking shut down my sinuses. But anyway, in a nutshell, the new policy is about removing videos they deem to be hurtful against somebody. So this is very vaguely defined, and it basically covers anything that can even be viewed as a criticism of a douchebag, or just a very well thought out critique. For example,
iDubbbz's content cop on Leafy was the biggest one that just got taken down out of nowhere yesterday as a result of this change. And that's extremely dangerous, to completely censor any type of criticism against people on the platform, or even not on the platform for that matter, because Leafy doesn't even fucking post anymore. And to say what is bullying on behalf of someone is also just ridiculous. Susan's pretending to be everyone's mom on YouTube, but she's the worst fucking wino, alcoholic mom of all time. It's a horrible, horrible change that's extremely scary to the platform, and by far probably the saddest change I've seen them make, because it's one that they're actively enforcing. They also took down a video that was critical of H3H3. It's just a absolute shit show. They took down one of Psychic Pebble's videos that was a parody of the Fine Bros. They take down all of these videos because they view it as harassment and bullying, which they're not. They're jokes, and they very clearly critique the content. And I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. This policy will not be fairly enforced across the whole platform. Some creators will just outright be exempt. Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon, they're the two faces of modern YouTube, of corporate YouTube. You're not going to take down any of their videos, but you should. You'd have to with this new policy if you're going to enforce it properly. They have so many videos that directly violate the exact things you tell that you can't do, such as all of the Donald Trump jokes they make about his hair, his skin, his senile old nature, his old ass, all that kind of shit. All those videos are now not allowed to be made. But I don't see YouTube taking down those videos, even though they directly violate the very first bullet about insulting someone's appearance. Hating, insulting, and shitting on Donald Trump has become a beloved American sport that we all partake in, but it doesn't matter because it shouldn't be allowed anymore on the platform as a result of this policy. They should have those videos taken down, because there's no exception here that says, except when talking about Donald Trump, you're allowed to do these things. It doesn't say that. That means these are violating the rules. That is one of the main things they do against Donald Trump, but they're not going to take him down. It's like Hydra. You cut off one Jimmy's head, two more Jimmys take its place, and they're all just as boring. It is shitty content, but they're the faces of YouTube, and YouTube's not going to poke that sleeping bear. They're not going to mess with the Jimmys of the round table, the Jimmy gods. So it's going to be really fucking frustrating when YouTubers' content is getting taken down like Content Cop, but Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon get a free pass to just keep doing the exact same things that other people get taken down for. And I know every time a policy like this comes out and YouTubers start talking about it, the pseudo-intellectuals on Reddit always post the same shit. Well, as a YouTuber, you shouldn't be putting all your eggs in that basket. They're a private company. They can do whatever they want, including burning down your house and slitting your family's throat. Totally within their right. That's what you get for being a YouTuber and putting all your eggs in that basket. You fucking douchebag. Most YouTubers do other things. I stream daily at twitch.tv/moistcritical. Come stop by if you want to put a few extra inches on your penis. But that's not the point. Just because you do other things, excuse me, talking about Reddit's really making the sinuses flare up. Just because you do other things outside of YouTube doesn't mean you don't care about YouTube. I fucking care so much about this goddamn platform. I've been on here since 2006. Of course I'm gonna fucking care. So I want it to be the best it can be and stop going down this horrible cesspool shitty route that it's going down. And it makes it really hard not to talk about it. And it's such a dangerous policy, by the way, since bullying and harassment is very vague and they don't thoroughly define what they mean by each one. You can pretty much twist anything to fit that and have a video taken down, which stifles criticism altogether, and taking away the ability for creators to criticize would allow channels like Daddy05 to still exist. Daddy05 was a family channel where a mother and father would abuse their children for YouTube views. Eventually, after YouTubers started talking about it and bringing it to light, the authorities stepped in and got the children out of the abusive household. With this new policy, that wouldn't have happened, and that channel would still be operating as it normally did, which would have been an absolute fucking crime. And that is the kind of thing, the environment, that this kind of policy will now cater to. Because Daddy05 could strike every video that talked about him, and it would have never gotten to the proper authorities and gotten those kids out of there. Also, I just want you to see the message they sent out to creators. This shit is just so silly. Oh, we're going to allow this to still be a platform for freedom of expression, but only if we agree with it and if it doesn't hurt any feelings. What a fucking dumb little statement. Who do you think honestly believes that? Who the fuck do you think would read through this new policy and be like, wow, I really feel like I can say what I want to say without fear of getting fucked in the ass by Susan in a strap-on? Thank you, YouTube. You have to be so disconnected and so delusional to think that anyone is on your side in this case, YouTube. But anyway, another example of why criticism is so important. There was a YouTuber named Pollution Entertainment, I believe that's how you say it. He murdered his kittens in YouTube videos, and those videos were up for years. of millions of views of these cats that he was murdering on YouTube, and they only got taken down because YouTubers criticized him and talked about it, and now he's getting tried and thrown in jail, hopefully. But under your new policy, this kid would still be murdering kittens for YouTube views, and you wouldn't be taking him down because your fucking bot system is so archaic it can't recognize animal abuse and murder. All it can recognize is words that make boo-boo ouchies my feelings hurt. It's ridiculous, because now if someone criticized that kid, they'd be the ones at risk getting taken down, not him, because of their bullying and harassment. It's such a dangerous fucking system that you guys have cooked up. And it's even more embarrassing that Susan herself goes on Twitter to make it sound like she's some fucking vigilante of justice, this fucking symbol of heroism about, hey, we've listened to you creators and you guys don't like it when people are mean to you. I don't like it when people are mean to you, so I've implemented this policy. You can go ahead and suckle on my teats now because I am so great. Yes, yes, yes. Nobody supports this kind of decision, Susan. You're not on creators' side. When you sit down to go for one of your little human interactions, a little in between two ferns with Susan and mindless marketing drone YouTuber number 50, nobody feels it's genuine because the YouTubers you talk to are people that only exploit your platform for milking ad revenue from little kids vlogs and kids skits like Lele Pons or Alfie. And now this isn't bullying, Susan, this is me making a point. These people are using your platform simply for the dollars in it, not because there's any passion behind it. Lele has a whole team studying children's psychology to make the dumbest fucking skits of all time. For kids, for the YouTube revenue. And you're talking to her about the kind of policies YouTube should be implementing? How delusional can you possibly be? You might as well talk to Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel about their opinions on where YouTube should go. It's so disconnected and so downright embarrassing that you, as the head of YouTube and the face of it, think that you're on creators' side. I don't know if you've actually believed that or if it's just PR talk, but it's fucking gross either way, Susan. Talk down with creators that actually came from nothing, that started as a broadcast yourselfer. Do you remember when that was the slogan for YouTube, broadcast yourself? That doesn't exist anymore, I know, but that was what it was built upon. People making videos themselves, by themselves, for the sake of making it and posting it online. Now it's just these companies like Lele Pons. That's not bullying, Susan. I'm not bullying Lele Pons. That is her content. That is what she does. She doesn't understand the platform. To her, this is just a cable TV channel to post something on to get a paycheck. And Susan, I know your panties are getting sodden at the very idea that you could turn YouTube into the next cable TV station, but why do you want to do that? Nobody watches cable TV outside of 70-year-old people in a geriatrics ward. There is no reason to bastardize a platform like YouTube into cable TV full of Jimmy Kimmels, Jimmy Fallons, and skits from companies. That's not what it was made for. That's not what made it popular. And that's not where the majority of your audience finds themselves in that neck of the woods. It's just an absolutely remarkable disconnect and just total delusion on your behalf, Susan. Why don't you actually sit down with creators that care about the platform and the future of it and care about improving it instead of people that only use it as cow titties to constantly shoot milk into their fucking bank bucket? It's just so stupid, and it's absolutely infuriating that a change like this would ever even get passed. Even Twitter's not this bad when it comes to harassment and bullying. This is so overblown. To take down videos like Content Cop of Leafy, it's so dangerous. But yeah, this makes video number 15 of bitching and complaining about what YouTube's doing, and I can't help it. It's because I really genuinely fucking care about the platform. I've been on here since 2006. So when they constantly change things for a really negative reason and make these sweeping, monstrously awful decisions, it's hard for me to not talk about it, because this is probably one of the things I'm most passionate about in the world, is just this platform, I suppose. So yeah, it's hard for me to not talk about things like this, and that's about it. So yeah. What's up, everybody? It's Critical. I'm sure by now all of you are aware of the new YouTube terms of service, where swearing or controversial topics or anything sensitive will no longer be able to be monetized on YouTube. No one's really sure how they're going to enforce these rules since they're so incredibly vague. You could make a video about masking tape and it could be misconstrued as something controversial and you won't be monetized. You could fucking breathe into your mic a little too much and it could be misconstrued as sexual erotica and get you demonetized. It's just up to speculation how they're going to actually enforce this. But let's talk hypothetically here. If they enforce the rules exactly how they're written, which it seems they're doing since a lot of channels have had random videos demonetized for a myriad of different reasons,
if they actually follow through with this and make YouTube this safe space they're trying to make, that will be the perfect storm that could kill YouTube. And that's something I never thought would happen. I always thought YouTube was too big to fail. But luckily, the only people that could kill YouTube are doing their absolute best to do just that. So hats off to the heroes at the YouTube headquarters that are really giving their best attempt, putting their best foot forward to destroy their website. Now, when I say destroy the site, I don't mean to a point where everyone leaves it or anything like that. That simply will never happen. The only thing that could ever happen on this site is the audience shifts and the new audience it appeals to isn't as big as the previous one, and then Google doesn't view keeping YouTube up as worth the expense anymore, so they pull the plug. Because YouTube, remember, is operated at a loss. Google is losing money every year on YouTube. They just view it as worth the cost to keep this monopoly on videos, because that's a huge medium right now, and YouTube's the big player there. They got the big scrotum. So they don't care about the content creators. If PewDiePie leaves, it doesn't matter to them because they're still operating at a loss. All of it completely irrelevant to them. But with these new terms of service, someone like PewDiePie, who is the biggest on the website, will no longer be able to monetize his normal videos because he says fuck, he says shit, and he plays sexual games, makes sexual jokes. So those videos can't be monetized anymore. So we'd have to completely change his format, as well as other content creators who make 1 or 2 videos a day. They'll have to completely change their format because sometimes it's on sensitive topics, or they say shit, or they say asshole, something like that. And it's going to take more time for them to produce that kind of content, and the amount of videos they make will decrease, so the amount of money they make will decrease. Their audience won't like the new videos since they subscribe for something that they're no longer getting, so that audience will leave, and then a new audience will fill its place that it likes these new videos, but it may not be as big as the previous one. So then these content creators are going to have to ask themselves a big question. Do they gamble on another video hosting site where they may not make the same money they make on YouTube and won't be able to live the way that they're used to? Or do they just water down their content for this new audience that YouTube is shifting towards? I'm pretty sure most big YouTubers will choose the latter, but still, they're not used to making this different kind of content or changing their format. They'll have to think of new things to talk about or to do, and it's going to take a lot of time, so they're still going to be making significantly less money, which is why this is the perfect time for an alternative to offer a service similar to YouTube that doesn't have these limitations and restrictions and can offer them something almost to the same level. It doesn't have to be the same amount of money per view. Now, I truly think Pornhub is in the best position for this. The owners of Pornhub tried to launch a video hosting site back in the early 2000s. It just didn't quite take off. If they tried again right now and gave it a cool name like turboner.org or .com, .net, .gov, any of that, and just offer a similar service where they'll give you X amount of money per view. It doesn't even have to match YouTube's amount right now, because I've talked to a couple other YouTubers on here who are big YouTubers because I wanted to gauge where they were at, and they're all worried about their financial security, and they said they'd be willing to go to an alternative even if it offered less revenue per view, because at least they would have that financial security where they could keep pumping out the videos and making the money off them. Even if it's a little bit less, they'll be able to compensate by making more videos, whereas on YouTube, they'd have to take a lot more time and make a lot less money. So let's say Pornhub launches Turboner. All they would need to do is give them some incentive to go over there. Give them a signing bonus, maybe a small little signing bonus, or at least just let them know that they will have complete creative freedom so they can keep making what they've been making. And I'm sure they would leave in a heartbeat because they're worried about their future on YouTube because of these new rules. Now, so far I've only talked about Pornhub as being someone in a position to capitalize on this opportunity, but there's actually a website out there right now that some of you may or may not know about. It's called vid.me. And I think this website has extreme promise in being the alternative to YouTube currently. I've only been saying Pornhub is someone who would try and capitalize on it because they're in a good position to do so. But VidMe has a pretty solid platform already. It's easy to use. The only thing holding it back is they clearly don't have the audience, and it's mainly just used as a side project for content creators if they want to mirror the video. But if VidMe was to double down and start reaching out to these big YouTube channels that are trying to get off of here because they're worried about their future, so VidMe higher-ups would need to reach out to them and be like, yo, what's up, pussy? Come over here, we'll give you this signing bonus. We can offer you this amount of revenue per view. I know it's a little lower than what you're used to, but you won't have all these limitations and you won't have all of these hoops that you have to ejaculate through, and you'll be able to pump out more content because you're not going to feel like you're restricted in what you can make. And that's really all they would have to do in order for VidMe to flourish right now, because a lot of channels are trying to get off here and find a viable alternative. And I think if VidMe played their cards right, they could very well be that viable YouTube alternative. Now, I know everyone's all out there asking, why would YouTube try and implement such obviously ridiculous rules? It makes no sense. They must be run by fucking piles of garbage shitting shits. No, the rules really aren't that stupid. What they're trying to do is appeal to the audience that's more sensitive and doesn't want to be exposed to anything that might offend them. And they also want to make sure the kids can feel safe on here as well, because as long as these people are happier and not feeling triggered or upset about stuff, they're going to watch more videos in a session. And this is a huge group of people that YouTube would like to appeal to and make them want to stay on the site. And for example, kids, they're a really good financial means for YouTube because they just put shit on repeat and they're not old enough to know what ad block is. So they're going to watch the entire 2-minute ad, and sometimes if they like it, they'll click on the ad, whereas someone above 10 years old is probably rocking some ad block, and I don't think they're going to see an ad for Dildo Sex Factory Machines new Sibian X Factor anal plugger, whatever. See that and then click on the ad. I don't think that happens. But a kid could see an advertisement for a toy maybe and then click on the ad. It's also really good for parents so they don't have to worry about their son or daughter getting exposed to some fucks and shits on YouTube, because you don't want little Hank's interpretation of the world to be contaminated by such filthy language and thought-provoking topics. Yucky. So it does make sense. Their business decision does make sense. They want to appeal to this really broad market that will probably give them a lot more revenue than the current audience right now. And also, they're not stupid. They know that the big YouTubers are going to try and abide by these rules, and they know that that audience will not leave YouTube because they support those people, obviously. That's why they stick around on here. I'm sure if those content creators went somewhere else, some of them would follow, but the majority of them would just forget about the content creator if they weren't that loyal. So they know that they have to stay on YouTube in order to maintain their full audience. For instance, you can't take PewDiePie, have him go to VidMe, for example, and expect all 47 million of his subscribers to follow him. No, maybe 1 or 2 million, and that's a huge chunk that he just lost in that transition. So he knows he needs to stay on the site. So really, YouTube knows what they're doing. But all in all, this is the only time where a competitor could actually be a viable alternative, where they could come in here, take some bigger channels, take a fraction of their audience and move them to the other site, move them to their site. So if someone offered that, Pornhub with Turboner, or perhaps VidMe stepping up saying, you know what, I'm coming up, I'm gonna be the big titties on the block. If someone could just offer a similar service and the big YouTube channels could feel safe over there in their financial situation, then I could definitely see YouTube folding because of these new rules and restrictions if they're strictly enforced the way they're written, because no content creator that's currently on the site can abide by them in their current form. All of their videos will lose monetization, and their future videos will be very staggered. They're going to take a lot of time to make, and they're not going to appeal to the same audience that they already have. So they're going to need somewhere else to go. So either VidMe or Pornhub with Turboner or someone else is going to step up at some point, and I'm sure will try and take the audience away. Whether or not it'll work, who knows. Now, everyone thought MySpace and PhotoBucket were too big to fail until someone came along and offered something better. This is a totally different situation. People want to leave YouTube. They don't even need something better. They just need something that can suffice. In the other situations, no one was trying to leave. They just found something better. Here, they're actively looking for anything else. So if someone could provide that, it could very well be the fall of YouTube. I'm not saying it's going to be, but fun to think about. It's exciting stuff. I welcome the rise of Turboner or VidMe really coming in hot. I'm all for that. I'd like to see YouTube just fade into a sea of finger family videos. It'd be really cool. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. That's it. See ya.